Chapter 766. 5 days later, Jianshin arrived above a forest. He slowly flew at a low altitude as he stood on a white cloud condensed from radiant saint force. He expanded the senses of his soul to a radius of 20 kilometers as he searched for Class 6 magical beasts and the other participants. Jianshin flew at a low altitude above the trees. He glanced at the white tiger on his shoulder and murmured, "The energy within Little White's body has begun to pulse unstably. Looks like it's at the critical moment of breaking through to Class 6. Since that's the case, I'll put aside the matter of collecting battle achievements in the artifact space for now. It won't be too late to continue collecting battle achievements after I assist the White Tiger in breaking through. There's still 10 days until the competition anyway, so there's plenty of time. Once the White Tiger becomes a Class 6 magical beast, it'll be equivalent to a human Heaven Saint Master. And with its identity as a winged tiger, its battle prowess will definitely be much greater than other magical beasts. Even beasts of antiquity will be nowhere close to it. At that time, the White Tiger will possess some ability to protect itself on the Tianyuan continent. Unless it encounters a saint ruler, no one will be able to harm it. Roar! Just as Jianshin was deep in thought, a great roar suddenly rang out from up ahead. The sound wave rolled out, reverberating through the surroundings. A Class 6 magical beast. Jianshin's eyes lit up as he stared ahead in interest. He murmured, "This should be a Class 6 magical beast that has reached the peak. The vital energies in its blood are extremely dense, and its voice is filled with anger and pain. It looks like someone is fighting with it." Without any hesitation, Jianshin immediately sped up and flew in the direction of the sound. Over a dozen Radiant Saint Masters were scattered in groups of 3 in a dense forest 30 kilometers in front of Jianshin. Milky white light constantly flickered, turning into radiant swords that shot toward the 6-meter-long Black Panther. The Black Panther had already reached the peak of Class 6. Its battle prowess was extremely great, but even with that being the case, it still struggled to fend off the attacks of over a dozen Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters. It was currently injured in many places and covered in blood. Its black fur had already been dyed red. Roar! The Black Panther constantly growled. Its vicious eyes were scarlet red. Not only did its wounds fail to decrease its battle prowess, but they also made it even more brutal. It became more and more valiant as it fought. As it constantly swung its front paws, powerful strands of energy shot toward the Radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings one after another. The Panther would spit out violent balls of energy from time to time. The Radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings dealt with the attacks of the Panther in an orderly fashion. They formed groups of 3, with 2 of them blocking the attacks of the Panther, while the other constantly condensed radiant swords to attack the Panther. Clearly, their teamwork had been honed for many years. More and more wounds appeared on the Panther. Even though its defenses were very great, it was unable to last for very long against the constant attacks of the radiant swords. Roar! Suddenly, the Panther roared at the sky. Bearing the price of 3 radiant swords, it arrived before one of the groups with a single leap. It opened its huge mouth and bit at one of them without any hesitation at all. The Radiant Saint Master was unable to react in time. His entire upper body was bitten by the Panther. In that moment of danger, a huge pillar of light descended from the sky, taking the Radiant Saint Master with it and disappearing from the artifact space. Clearly, this was not the first time the Panther had seen this happen. It ignored the huge pillar of light and did not pause at all. It immediately charged toward a second Radiant Saint Master and viciously swiped its sharp claws at the Radiant Saint Master's chest. Crack! The Radiant Saint Master's radiant armor was as fragile as tofu. It was directly shattered by the Panther's attack, turning the Radiant Saint Master's chest into a bloody mess. Ark! The Radiant Saint Master cried out miserably as he was directly blown away. He vomited blood in the air as his face paled. The Panther ignored the Radiant Saint Master. It opened its huge mouth and bit at the 3rd Radiant Saint Master. Radiant Sword. The Radiant Saint Master did not become flustered at all. The radiant sword that he had just condensed immediately turned into a white streak of light, shooting into the panther's mouth with lightning speed. Boom! The radiant sword exploded loudly after entering the panther's mouth. A powerful pulse of energy leaked out from the panther's mouth, causing it to wail out in pain. Blood constantly flowed from its mouth. At the same time, the panther's huge mouth bit down on the radiant Saint Master, swallowing his entire upper body. At the brink of death, another huge pillar of light descended from the sky, taking the second radiant Saint Master with it and disappearing from the artifact space. Quick! Attack its wounds with all your strength. A radiant Saint Master in another direction immediately called out. Soon afterwards, over a dozen radiant Saint Masters realized that this was a great opportunity to heavily injure the panther. All of them immediately began to condense radiant Saint force and shoot it at the clearly deeper wounds on the panther at the same time. They planned on using those wounds to deal fatal damage to the panther. Swish! 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 Over a dozen radiant swords shot out from the hands of the radiant Saint Masters at basically the same time. They struck the wounds on the panther with great precision, immediately widening them. Blood spurted out like a fountain. The Black Panther produced a chilling cry. He glanced at the radiant Saint Masters with eyes filled with endless hatred before leaping into the distance, fleeing into the distance. At this moment, a huge radiant sword that was 3 meters long shot down from the sky. It turned into a streak of light and chased after the fleeing Black Panther with astonishing force. In the end, it struck the Black Panther's wound viciously, worsening its injuries. The strike was extremely powerful. It was several times more powerful than the radiant swords shot out by the radiant Saint Masters. The huge panther was actually knocked into the air by the strike, landing heavily 3 meters away. A bone-deep wound appeared where it had been injured on its back. Even its organs were exposed. Roar! The panther produced a painful cry. The damage from the strike was just too great. This Class 6 magical beast can't hold on much longer. Let's go. We can't let anyone take it away. The radiant Saint Masters who had attacked the panther earlier yelled out. They all rushed toward the panther as surging radiant Saint Masters rapidly condensed in their hands, quickly forming radiant swords. They then shot them at the panther with a wave of their hands. They wanted to kill the panther as soon as possible and take its monster core. The radiant swords struck the panther, causing it to become even more heavily injured. The panther had already lost its ability to flee. All it could do was lie on the ground and produce painful growls. The vitality of Class 6 magical beasts was just too tenacious. The panther actually managed to survive the combined attacks of over a dozen Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters. A figure rapidly approached from the distant sky. A white-robed Radiant Saint Master hurried over on a white cloud. 3 radiant swords had already been condensed in his hands. He quickly flew over in a straight line, striking the deep wound on the panther's neck with great precision. Boom! 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 Following 3 violent explosions, the head of the Black Panther, which was 1 meter in diameter, separated from its body. It was directly sent flying into the air by the powerful energy shockwaves. Its head was separated from its body, and blood splattered all over the sky. The Class 6 magical beast that had fought against over a dozen Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters for almost an hour had died to Jinshin's hands just like that. Go collect the monster core. A Radiant Saint Master immediately called out. Immediately, a few people ran over to the panther's corpse in an attempt to retrieve the monster core as soon as possible. At this moment, a few more radiant swords shot over from the sky. This time, their targets were actually the Radiant Saint Masters who ran over to the panther's corpse. The expressions of all the Radiant Saint Masters changed. They all snorted coldly and condensed a radiant sword. A portion of them shot toward the radiant swords that had attacked their companions, blocking Jinshin's attacks. The other portion shot toward Jinshin, who was flying over from afar. A radiant shield that was 2 meters in diameter appeared in Jinshin's hand. He directly tossed it out and blocked all the radiant swords. Jinshin did not slow down at all. He flew over the radiant Saint Masters and landed firmly before the panther's corpse. He immediately condensed a radiant sword and stabbed it into the panther's body, removing the monster core hidden within. His movements were smooth and extremely practiced. The radiant Saint Masters' faces became extremely ugly when they saw that the monster core had been taken away. They all glared at Jianshun with hostility. "Sir, it took us a lot of effort to heavily injure and kill this Class 6 magical beast, so the monster core should belong to us. Now that it's been taken away by you, sir, your actions seem to be rather inappropriate," an elder said with a cold expression. An old man said coldly with a sunken face. He could already tell that Jianshun's strength was extraordinary from the short clash earlier. Otherwise, why would he waste so much time talking to Jianshun? He would have directly charged at Jianshun with his advantage in numbers. "Sir, return the monster core to us, and we'll forget about what happened before. We'll go our separate ways in the future and mind our own business," another Radiant Saint Master said sternly. Another Radiant Saint Master growled. His gaze towards Jianshun was filled with some fear. Over a dozen of them had actually failed to stop Jianshun at all, allowing him to arrive before He Bao's corpse with great composure. They dared not offend Jianshun so easily. Jianshun grabbed a handful of grass from the ground and wiped away the blood on the monster core. Afterward, he looked at the Radiant Saint Masters and said indifferently, "Not only do I want the monster core, but I want your battle achievements as well." The faces of the Radiant Saint Masters all changed when they heard that. Fury rose up in their hearts. In their eyes, Jianshun was simply arrogant and condescending. He had gone a little too far. Not only had he taken their spoils, but he also wanted their battle achievements. This was a blatant provocation to them. Even though they knew that Jianshun's strength was extraordinary, they did not believe that Jianshun could fend off all of them by himself. They feared Jianshun because they did not want to provoke an expert like him so easily. It did not mean that they feared him. Chapter 767. The Radiant Saint Masters were infuriated by Jianshun. They all began to condense radiant swords to attack Jianshun. They shot out from their hands, shooting toward Jianshun mercilessly. They were confident that even if Jianshun was very powerful, he would not be able to fend off all of them by himself. This was because they were not weak either, and their teamwork was extremely good. Jianshun condensed a radiant shield with a diameter of 2 meters in front of him with his left hand, while he condensed 6 radiant swords in his right hand. The 6 radiant swords split into 3 different directions, shooting toward 3 of the Radiant Saint Masters. The first 3 radiant swords directly shattered the radiant armor on the 3 Radiant Saint Masters, while the last 3 radiant swords mercilessly struck the 3 Radiant Saint Masters who were not protected by radiant armor. They directly pierced through their bodies and into their chests. Just as they were facing a huge threat to their lives, 3 huge pillars of light descended from the sky, enveloping their bodies and disappearing from sight. At the same time, the radiant swords landed on the radiant shield before Jianshun. With a great boom, Jianshun's radiant shield shattered loudly, but the fragments did not vanish. Instead, they shot forward as streaks of light, enveloping the 2 Radiant Saint Masters. The 2 Radiant Saint Masters had never thought that the fragments of the Radiant Shield would be able to harm people. Caught off guard, countless fragments directly shot into their bodies. Quite a few fragments even shot toward their hearts and throats, 2 fatal spots. Another 2 huge pillars of light descended from the sky, sweeping up the 2 Radiant Saint Masters and disappearing from the artifact space. In just a single clash, 5 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters have been slain by Jianshun. As a result, only 7 people remained out of the original group. The remaining 7 Radiant Saint Masters had become stunned. They all stared at Jianshun with pale white faces as deep fear filled their eyes. Jianshun's strength had completely exceeded their expectations. They had never thought that Jianshun would be able to kill 5 of their companions in such a short amount of time. Even though all of this had happened right before their eyes, they still struggled to accept it. They struggled to believe it. Is he a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master? At that moment, the 7 remaining Radiant Saint Masters all thought the same thing. In their eyes, only a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master could kill 5 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters in such an unimaginable manner. At this moment, another 7 Radiant Swords condensed before Jianshin. They pulsed with energy from Radiant Saint Force. Radiant Saint Force. They were no weaker than a full-powered strike from Saint Master. Run! The 7 remaining Radiant Saint Masters were shocked. They all fled in panic, no longer daring to stay behind and oppose Jianshin. They felt extremely regretful. If they had known earlier that Jianshin was so powerful, they would never have dared to ask for a Class 6 Monster Core from Jianshin. Jianshin did not plan on sparing them. Several Radiant Swords shot out with lightning speed, striking the backs of the 7 Radiant Saint Masters mercilessly. The radiant armor on the 7 Radiant Saint Masters was shattered. The powerful shock waves surged into their bodies, causing their fragile bodies to suffer extremely great damage. They could not help but vomit blood as they lost their balance and fell to the ground. Rain of the sky! Jianshin bellowed out. Surging Radiant Saint Force immediately condensed into bean-sized droplets of rain, which all rained down on the Radiant Saint Masters. The Radiant Saint Masters had already lost the ability to resist. They could only watch as the sharp droplets of rain enveloped them. Their eyes were filled with despair. This was the despair of making it to the top 10. The power of the Saint Artifact appeared in time. A few huge pillars of light descended from the sky, sweeping up the 7 of them and making them vanish in a single instance. Jinshin's Rain of the Sky struck the ground as well. The violent energy within the droplets of rain erupted, blowing the soil into the air. Dust filled the surroundings. After the Radiant Saint Masters were swept away by the power of the Saint Artifact, they all left behind one or several finger-sized specks of white light. Clearly, the Radiant Saint Masters had obtained some of the battle achievements of others. Now, there are almost 30 specks of white light left behind. Jianshin used the Jade pendant to absorb the white specks of light in the air. As a result, his battle achievements had reached over 100. He had reached a fifth of what he needed to make it to the top 10. Jianshin was not in a hurry because he knew that there were Radiant Saint Masters fighting everywhere in the artifact space. The battle achievements he obtained from the participants were relatively fewer in the early stages. Once all the battle achievements were gathered from a small number of Radiant Saint Masters, he could easily obtain several dozen or even over 100 battle achievements from any random Radiant Saint Master he came across. After collecting the battle achievements, Jianshin arrived before the corpse of the Class 6 magical beast. Immediately, a red gas drifted out from the blood of the panther, which was absorbed by the white tiger in the end. The Black Panther's strength had already reached the peak of the 6th step. The essence, energy, and spirit contained in its blood was clearly much more powerful than that of ordinary 6th-step magical beasts. After absorbing the essence, the white light emitted by the little white tiger grew more and more intense. Very soon, it formed a dazzling white light that wrapped around the little white tiger's entire body, making its petite body faintly discernible. Very soon, all the vital energies within the blood had been absorbed by the white tiger. Jianshin glanced at the white tiger, sleeping on his shoulder, and immediately frowned. He began to feel troubled inside. This was because the white tiger's current appearance was far too conspicuous. If the other contestants were to see it like this, then the uniqueness of the white tiger would be impossible to hide. Once the other contestants went out and spread the news, the uniqueness of the white tiger would quickly be known by the various large clans, thus attracting widespread attention. Although they might not be able to see through the true identity of the white tiger, it was better to be safe than sorry. If someone with extraordinary knowledge were to recognize the identity of a white tiger, then it would undoubtedly be a very frightening thing. This was definitely not a result that Jianshin wanted to see. Jianshin muttered to himself for a while, then immediately flew into the air. He found a mountain range several dozen kilometers away and opened up a cave in a very hidden place. He then placed the white tiger in the depths of the cave, intending to wait for the white tiger to break through. Jianshan sat 5 meters away from the white tiger with his eyes closed. He planned to accompany the white tiger as it broke through to prevent any accidents from happening. He sat there for 3 days. During those 7 days, the white light from the white tiger became more and more intense, but it still failed to break through. After waiting for 3 days, Jianshan finally couldn't sit still any longer. He stood up from the ground and stared at the little white tiger wrapped in white light with a vexed expression. Looking at the little white tiger's current state, it probably wouldn't be able to smoothly break through to the 6th rank, even if it was given another half a month's time. And within the artifact space, Jianshan didn't have that much time to wait. No, I can't keep waiting like this. The white tiger's current state is not suitable for being taken out of the artifact space, or will definitely attract the attention of many people. Since the essence of a Class 6 magical beast blood can help the white tiger break through, I'll go hunt a Class 6 magical beast, Jianshan murmured to himself. He then immediately turned around and left the cave. For the sake of the white tiger's safety, he no longer cared about hiding his strength as a cultivator. He directly used his Saint Ruler ability to cast down a powerful barrier around the entrance of the cave, enveloping the entire cave. That way, no one could enter the barrier, no matter how hard they tried. After doing all that, Jianshan used branches to cover the entrance of the cave, ensuring that it was completely covered. He then left to hunt Class 6 magical beasts in the distance. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days passed. A total of 10 days had passed in the artifact space. There were only 5 days left before the competition ended. During these 2 days, Jianshan gave up on competing with the other participants. He focused on finding and killing Class 6 magical beasts before throwing the corpses into a space ring so that the white tiger could absorb the essence of the blood. Helping the white tiger break through had become the top priority for Jianshan right now, so he set aside the top 10 without any hesitation. In these 2 days, Jianshan had killed over 10 Class 6 magical beasts, providing the white tiger with a large amount of essence to help it break through. After absorbing the essence of the Class 6 magical beasts, the white tiger took a step closer to breaking through. The white light around it had completely solidified, turning into a huge cocoon. Today, 8 white-robed Radiant Saint Masters flew over a mountain range on a white cloud. Aside from the woman at the very front, the other 7 were all men of various ages. Aside from the woman, the other 7 all carried bulging bags on their backs. The bags were completely made from beast hides. Chapter 768. The woman at the very front was devastatingly beautiful. She was the young lady of the Kara clan, the person who ranked first among the 10 great Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters, Kara Livy. A sliver of thought appeared in Kara Livy's eyes. She gently stroked her messy hair with her right hand and said softly, "Although I've never met Yang Yutian, I've heard quite a lot about him from Elder Liu. If I really have to compare Yang Yutian to Yin Tian, I clearly favor Yang Yutian more. However, I wonder who Yang Yutian is and whether he's someone who can accomplish great things. Although Yin Tian's offer is very generous, I don't trust him very much. As a result, it's best if we don't choose a side before personally meeting Yang Yutian." The young lady is right. The Radiant Saint Master Union is an extremely powerful force. Yang Yutian and Yin Tian will both be successors of the Union in the future, but the two of them are on opposing sides now. Once one of them fails, they'll be doomed. As a result, we can't be careless at a time like this. Once we stand on the wrong side, our Kara clan might become the Union's enemy as well, a middle-aged man said in agreement. Although this was an internal matter of the Radiant Saint Masters, and they could choose not to participate, it was still a great opportunity to rope in the Union. Their Kara clan would not give up on this opportunity so easily. While they were talking, they were flying over a mountain range. However, at this moment, Kara Li Wei, who was flying at the front, had a flash in her eyes. Her body that was flying at high speed immediately stopped and stared down with a sharp gaze. The people behind her all stopped as well. They all stared down in interest. They knew that their young lady had probably discovered something when she acted like that. However, They failed to find anything amiss even after staring at the mountain range for quite some time. They could not help but begin to doubt themselves. Immediately, one of them could not help but ask, "Young lady, what have you discovered?" Cara Livy gradually became stern. She said, "I can feel a strange power below. It seems to be a barrier that only saint rulers can use." A gleam of light flashed through the eyes of the 7 radiant saint masters when they heard that. They did not find it strange that Cara Livy could sense the power of the barrier, because they all knew that the young lady before them had been extraordinary since she was young. Not only could she sense radiant saint force as a radiant saint master, she could even sense the powers of the other elements. Ever since she became a Class 6 radiant saint master, she was able to sense the force of the world that only saint rulers could control. The only flaw was that she could only sense the existence of the other elements and force of the world, but she could not control them. The barrier used by saint rulers was formed from world force as well, so Cara Livy could obviously sense it. "Wait for me for a moment. I'll go down and take a look." Cara Livy directly landed in the dense forest. Following the feeling in her heart, she finally found a cave in a place covered by branches. Cara Livy carefully observed her surroundings, and a gleam of light flashed through her eyes. She murmured, "The tree branch hasn't dried up yet, so it's clearly been broken recently. And this cave seems to have been dug out recently as well. Who did this?" Cara Livy furrowed her brows tightly. She seemed to think of something, and her face changed slightly. She murmured to herself, "There's a barrier in a newly dug cave. Is there a saint ruler in the artifact space?" Although she came to a conclusion like that, Cara Livy showed no fear at all. It was not like she had never seen a saint ruler before. She had even come into contact with the Holy Emperor quite a few times, so a saint ruler was unable to make Cara Livy feel pressured at all. Cara Livy stared at the pitch-black cave and hesitated. She then raised her slender arm slightly, and a powerful radiant sword immediately condensed in her jade-white hand. With a shake of her hand, the radiant sword turned into a streak of white light and shot into the cave like a bolt of lightning. Boom! A violent roar suddenly came from within the cave, and a surge of energy gushed out from the cave. It actually doubled the size of the 2-meter-tall cave, and the entire mountain trembled slightly with this attack. The enchantment was hidden inside the cave. When Cara Liwy's attack hit the enchantment didn't even shake. At the same time, several hundred kilometers away, the white-robed Jinshin had just killed a Class 6 poisonous demon scorpion. Just when he was about to put the scorpion into a space ring, a gleam of light suddenly flashed through his eyes. He called out, "Oh no, the barrier has been attacked. Looks like the white tiger's hiding spot has been exposed. I need to hurry back immediately." Jinshin changed his unhurried actions from before. With a wave of his hand, he cleanly put the huge corpse of the scorpion into a space ring before hurrying back as quickly as he could. Outside the cave, the disturbance caused by Cara Livy alarmed the Radiant Saint Masters in the sky. They immediately landed beside Cara Livy and asked, "Young miss, what happened?" Cara Liwy was silent. She stared intently at the boundary hidden in the depths of the cave. She cupped her fist towards the cave entrance and said, "I am a member of the Cara family. May I know which senior is cultivating in seclusion here?" Cara Livy did not want to destroy the barrier with her attack earlier. Instead, she wanted to alarm the person inside. Although her actions were rather impolite, Cara Livy did not take a saint ruler seriously at all. With her status in the Cara clan, there was no need for her to bow before a saint ruler. "Is there a saint ruler here?" The other Radiant Saint Masters all stared at the entrance of the cave. They were all surprised. This was the first time they had heard of a saint ruler in the artifact space. They waited outside the cave for a while, but they did not receive any response. "Young miss, let's go. Perhaps the senior doesn't want to see us, so there's no need for us to waste time here." A while later, a middle-aged man finally lost his patience and suggested from one side. Cara Livy sank in her thoughts and gently sighed. "Then let's go." With that, they turned around to leave. However, at this moment, a tremendous presence suddenly appeared from the cave. The presence was filled with supreme dignity and dominance, as if a supreme ruler had descended. It broke through the barrier and rapidly expanded outwards, enveloping the entire mountain range very quickly. Carolee and the others paused. Their figures that were about to leave stopped abruptly. Each of them stood on a white cloud and floated in the air, staring intently at the cave. No, the presence is powerful, but it's nowhere near as powerful as a saint ruler. There's something strange about this place, an old man said with a deep voice as he stared at the cave. This aura is filled with majesty and dominance. Moreover, I can faintly sense a berserk aura mixed within. Could it be that the person hiding inside is a bloodthirsty person? A middle-aged man's face darkened slightly. No, Carolee gently shook her head. She stared at the cave with a strange light in her eyes and slowly said, "If I've guessed correctly, the presence is actually from a magical beast." What? A magical beast? The 7 Radiant Saint Masters were all surprised by Carolee's words, but after thinking about it carefully, they felt that the young miss was right. This magical beast isn't powerful, so how is it able to use a barrier to protect itself? And from the looks of it, it seems to be in the process of breaking through. Moreover, it's breaking through from Class 5 to Class 6. Otherwise, if it's a Class 7 magical beast, its aura is definitely not something we can withstand. An old man analyzed carefully, but his heart was filled with doubt. Let's just wait here and see. Carolee remained calm, but the light in her eyes constantly flickered. Afterwards, they quietly hovered there and waited. They all wanted to see what was happening. An hour later, a white streak of light suddenly flew over from afar at an extremely fast speed. Its target was Carolee and the others. The arrival of the person immediately attracted the attention of Carolee and the others. A cold light flashed through the eyes of many of them, and one of them immediately sneered. That person is bold enough to barge in here alone, so he must be quite powerful. He should have quite a few battle achievements. Haha. The young miss just happens to lack some battle achievements. Why don't we collect all of that person's battle achievements? I just hope that his battle achievements won't disappoint us too much. An old man laughed aloud. The figure in the distance arrived before them very soon, standing 20 meters away from them. At this moment, Carolee finally saw the person's appearance. He was an extremely handsome young man who seemed to be in his 20s. However, what surprised Carolee was that she actually saw some resoluteness on the young man's handsome face. This resoluteness would only appear on fighters who had gone through many trials of life and death. However, it had actually appeared on a Radiant Saint Master who had always lived like a prince. This left Carolee extremely surprised. Coupled with the young man's cold gaze, it even gave Carolee the illusion that the young man before her was not a Radiant Saint Master, but a fighter who had gone through many trials and tribulations. However, what surprised Carolee the most was that her appearance didn't affect the young man in front of her at all. His cold gaze didn't even linger on her face for a moment. It was just an indifferent glance. In the past, there had always been a person who either immediately became infatuated or burned with desire when they saw her appearance. Even a few saint rulers would show a sliver of admiration when they saw her appearance. There had never been anyone who could remain calm after seeing her for the first time, or even look at her coldly. This made Carolee feel that the young man before her was clearly different from those people. Brat, obediently leave behind your battle achievements and then forfeit. That way, you won't have to suffer. A middle-aged man behind Carolee stared coldly at Jianshan and said with a deep voice. A cold light flashed through Jianshan's eyes when he heard that. Raising his hand, a radiant sword immediately condensed in front of him. What speed of condensation! The people on the other side all became surprised when they saw what Jianshan had done. Even Carolee's eyes suddenly narrowed. Her gaze towards Jianshan had changed slightly, because Jianshan had condensed Radiant Saint Force just too quickly. Even she could not match up to him. Radiant armor. The Radiant Saint Masters of the Kara clan were all experienced, so they reacted very quickly. They immediately used radiant armor to protect themselves as quickly as they could and prepared for battle. At the same time, the The radiant sword in Jinshin's hand shot toward the person who had spoken with lightning speed. It directly dispersed the incomplete radiant armor in front of him before viciously striking the chest of the Class 6 Radiant Saint Master. Chapter 769. Jinshin's actions immediately infuriated the Radiant Saint Masters of the Kara clan. Aside from Kara Livy, all the other Radiant Saint Masters began to condense radiant swords. The 6 radiant swords shot toward Jinshin at the same time. Jinshin's gaze was cold. He raised his left hand slightly, and the radiant saint force in the surroundings rapidly condensed. In the blink of an eye, it actually condensed into a huge shield in front of him. At the same time, another 3 radiant swords condensed in Jinshin's right hand. Boom! The 6 radiant swords collided with Jinshin's shield, immediately producing a violent boom. The 6 radiant saint masters were not weak. They were far more powerful than the radiant saint masters Jinshin had encountered before. His radiant shield only managed to block 3 radiant swords before shattering. The remaining 3 radiant swords continued toward Jinshin without slowing down at all. Jinshin remained composed. He gently waved his right hand, and the 3 radiant swords condensed before him immediately shot out with lightning-like speed. They collided with the 3 incoming radiant swords. The radiant swords condensed by Jinshin were clearly more powerful than the radiant swords condensed by the Radiant Saint Masters. When the 6 radiant swords collided in the air, they immediately shattered. Jinshin's radiant swords continued toward the 3 radiant Saint Masters. However, after being weakened earlier, they were clearly much weaker. Swish! 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 The 3 radiant swords struck the chests of the 3 radiant Saint Masters with lightning-like speed, causing their radiant armor to become covered in cracks. The 3 radiant Saint Masters immediately vomited blood from the violent impact. Their faces paled in an instant. The radiant Saint Masters of the Kara clan were all shocked. They stared at Jinshin in disbelief. Jinshin's strength had shocked them. What shocked them even more was that they had never even heard of such a powerful Radiant Saint Master. They found this very hard to believe. Their Kara clan had basically collected information on all Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters. Although it was impossible for them to know every single Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, they still paid great attention to a few powerful ones. Kara Livy also became extremely stern. She was extremely shocked by the strength of the young man before her. As the strongest Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, she actually did not have any confidence in defeating him. Jinshin did not stop at all because of their shock. With a thought, a few more powerful radiant swords condensed before him. He could already sense the changes in the White Tiger. He needed to kill these people as quickly as possible and then return to the cave to check on the White Tiger's situation. Yang Yuqian, stop. We're from the Kara clan. We don't want to become your enemy. At this moment, Kara Livy suddenly called out. Although she had never seen Jinshin before, she had already guessed Jinshin's identity. What? Yang Yuqian? He's Yang Yuqian? Kara Livy's call surprised the other Radiant Saint Masters of the Kara clan, but they soon came to a realization. An extremely unfamiliar Class 6 Radiant Saint Master actually possessed such unbelievable strength. Not only was he able to deal with them so easily when they worked together, but he had even heavily injured 3 of them. The only person who could achieve this was the 3rd disciple of the Union, Yang Yuqian, who had also grasped a forbidden technique and killed over 30 Heaven Saint Masters all by himself. After learning the identity of the young man, the gazes of the Radiant Saint Masters of the Kara clan toward Jinshin immediately changed. The anger in their eyes vanished because they all understood that it was extremely likely for the young man to become the president of the Union in the future. He was an important figure that they could not afford to offend. Jinshin's hand paused slightly as he stared at Kara Livy in some surprise. He had not been enchanted by Kara Livy's alluring beauty. His face remained as cold as before as he asked, "You're from the Kara clan?" Kara Livy's limpid eyes stared at Jinshin with some mixed feelings. She had never thought that meeting Yang Yuqian would be like this. After what had happened earlier, Kara Livy had personally witnessed Yang Yuqian's coldness, decisiveness, and viciousness, as well as his great strength. This allowed Kara Livy, who did not understand Yang Yutian at all, to finally understand what kind of person Yang Yutian was. Although Yang Yutian was only 24 years old, Kara Livy understood that Yang Yutian was completely different from regular Radiant Saint Masters after what had happened earlier. He could not be underestimated, nor could he be measured by age. That's right. We are indeed from the Kara clan. Yang Yutian, our Kara clan has no intentions of becoming enemies with you. What happened earlier was only a misunderstanding. Kara Livy looked at Jianshun and said softly. The moment she saw Yang Yutian, she immediately gave up on working with Yantian. This was because Kara Livy understood that Yang Yutian could not be offended. If he was offended, the consequences would definitely be much more severe than offending Yantian. Both Yang Yutian's talent and strength far surpassed Yantian's. Kara Livy could even sense a faint presence of slaughter from Yang Yutian. This was definitely not something that Yantian possessed. Jianshun fell silent for a while before gradually dispersing the radiant sword. He said emotionlessly, "You can go. Leave immediately." The Kara clan was one of the 3 great clans of the Holy Emperor's empire. They controlled a third of the Holy Emperor's empire's lifeline. At the same time, they possessed the strength of an ancient clan, which made Jianshun extremely fearful. He did not want to provoke the Kara clan over such a small matter. Most importantly, the Qinhuang kingdom was dependent on the Kara family. If he had a falling out with the Kara family, and his identity was exposed in the future, it would affect the Qinhuang kingdom. Seeing that Jianshun did not pursue the matter from before, the people from the Kara clan immediately let out a sigh of relief. This was because if their relationship with Jianshun deteriorated, it would probably affect their clan greatly. This was not something they wanted to see. Although one of them had been sent out by Jianshun due to the conflict earlier, it was not life-threatening. It was not a big deal. Now, the aura emitted from the white tiger's body was not something that Jianshun's barrier could block. The aura emitted from the cave was getting stronger and stronger. It covered an area of 100 miles, and this area was still expanding. The people from the Kara clan did not immediately leave. Kara Livy looked at the cave not far away. Then she asked Jianshun, "Yang Yutian, do you know the situation inside this cave?" Hearing this, Jianshun slightly frowned. He stared at the people from the Kara clan impatiently and coldly said, "You all leave this place immediately. Otherwise, I can only offend you." Before chasing these people away, it was not convenient for Jianshun to enter the cave at all. This was because the barrier inside was difficult to explain, and he could not allow the white tiger's identity to be exposed. Jianshun's rude and unreasonable behavior caused the expressions of Kara Livy and the others to change slightly, especially Kara Livy. As the young lady of the Kara clan, she had never been yelled at like this before. "Yang Yutian, we discovered this cave first. Can we even stay and take a look?" Kara Livy said with some dissatisfaction. Her beautiful face revealed some unconcealable anger. If any other Radiant Saint Master had dared to speak to her like this, she definitely would not have been polite. However, when she thought of Jianshun's strength and terror, as well as the fact that it was extremely likely that he would become the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union in the future, Kara Livy could only swallow her anger. The aura in the cave was constantly rising, and Jianshun could clearly sense that the energy inside was becoming more and more unstable. This made Jianshun rather anxious. "People of the Kara clan, since you don't want to leave, I'll just have to do it," Jianshun said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the Radiant Saint force in the surroundings began to gather toward Jianshun. He pointed a finger at the sky and yelled, "Sword of Judgment." In order to not waste any time, Jianshun no longer cared about anything else. Even if he had to offend the Kara clan, he would not hesitate to do so. Sword of Judgment, one of the 3 great theurgies. Yang Yutian, Kara Livy's expression changed drastically. She had never thought that Yang Yutian would actually attack them. Moreover, he had used one of the 3 great theurgies right from the start. It was as if he had some great enmity with the Kara clan. Kara Livy was extremely angry. In her opinion, this Yang Yutian was simply tyrannical and unreasonable. As the young lady of the Kara clan, her status was lofty. She had already spoken to him in such a humble manner. However, not only did the other party not appreciate her kindness, but he also wanted to fight because of her words of dissatisfaction. Kara Livy clenched her teeth. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared fiercely at Jianshin. She felt that her chest was about to explode from anger. However, when she saw the sword of judgment that was rapidly condensing above Jinshin's head, her expression became somewhat unsightly. Now that things had developed to this point, Kara Livy knew that if she and the others continued to stay, they might really have a conflict with Yang Yutian. Yang Yutian, stop quickly. We'll leave immediately. Kara Livy's beautiful face was livid with anger. She called out to everyone, then immediately left and soon disappeared into the distance. After they left, the sword of judgment above Jinshin's head slowly dissipated. He didn't want to offend the Kara clan unless it was a last resort. Part of the reason was because he was afraid of the Kara clan, and the other part was also for the sake of the Qin Empire. After watching Kara Livy's group leave, Jinshin's figure flashed and entered the cave. His body passed through the barrier without the slightest hindrance. Kara Livy's group stopped 50 miles away. At this moment, their faces were very ugly. They were all livid with anger. This Yang Yutian has gone too far. He actually dares to treat the people of our Kara clan like this. Does he want to become enemies with our Kara clan? A middle-aged man said angrily. This Yang Yutian is too arrogant. He's too domineering. Just because his talent is outstanding and he has a high chance of becoming the next president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, he doesn't take our Kara clan seriously. Oomph. An old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion was also quite angry. Chapter 770. Kara Livy sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed her anger. Everything that had happened before, from when Jianshin had arrived from afar to when they were chased away, slowly replayed in Kara Livy's head. Gradually, she discovered that something was wrong. Did you notice that when Yang Yutian first appeared, he directly flew towards the cave? He didn't rush over because he discovered our existence. It was as if his target wasn't us, but the secret cave. In the end, he wanted us to leave immediately. Perhaps he wanted us to leave the cave. If we didn't leave, he wouldn't hesitate to become enemies with our Kara clan to chase us away. Clearly, he found something important in the cave and didn't want us to know about it. Kara Livy was a clever person. Now that she had calmed down, she quickly realized the crux of the problem. Hearing that, the eyes of the other 6 Radiant Saint Masters of the Kara clan immediately lit up. One of them immediately said, "For what the young miss has said, I also think that's the case. Yang Yutian only wants us to leave the cave. Is there some kind of secret hidden in there?" From the presence, we can already sense that a Class 5 magical beast is breaking through in the cave. It's also rumored that Yang Yutian carries an extremely cute, snow-white cub with him at all times. Is a Class 5 magical beast breaking through in the cave the cub that accompanies Yang Yutian? A middle-aged man pondered. If the magical beast breaking through is the cub that accompanies Yang Yutian, then why is Yang Yutian so cautious? Even if the cub is extremely important to him, there's no need for him to risk becoming enemies with our Kara clan to chase us away. That's true. Also, what's with the barrier in the cave? The people of the Kara clan analyzed the situation one after another. However, as the results of their analysis gradually appeared, not only did it not resolve their questions, but also made them even more confused. Kara Livy stood there in silence. A gleam of light flickered in her eyes. Clearly, she was also thinking about the problem. A while later, she slowly said, "No matter what, Yang Yutian definitely doesn't want us to see something. I've also checked the cave. It's newly excavated, so it's extremely likely that Yang Yutian created it. As for the barrier, did a saint ruler leave behind some barrier energy in Yang Yutian's body? As a result, Yang Yutian was able to cast down a barrier?" Kara Livy could not help but think of Jinshin's handsome, resolute face and Jinshin's cold eyes. His decisiveness in killing and ruthlessness in his actions could only be seen on fighters who had experienced great storms and wandered the Tianyuan continent for many years. Their hands were also covered in blood. It was very rare for them to appear on a Radiant Saint Master, let alone a 24-year-old Radiant Saint Master. All of this sometimes made Kara Livy wonder whether Yang Yutian was a Radiant Saint Master or not. Just what kind of person is Yang Yutian? Why do I feel like he's more like a fighter than a Radiant Saint Master? Kara Livy was filled with curiosity. All of this had happened unknowingly after Jianshan had entered the artifact space. The slaughter in the artifact space seemed to have made Jianshan return to the days when he wandered the Tianyuan continent. It silently changed Jianshan's personality, silently awakening his deeply hidden presence. This is why Jianshan made Kara Livy feel this way. Let's not provoke Yang Yutian. I just feel like Yang Yutian isn't as simple as he seems on the surface, Kara Livy gently said before gradually leaving. Inside the cave, the little white tiger was already completely wrapped in a huge white cocoon with a diameter of 3 meters. The white cocoon emitted a dazzling white light that enveloped the entire cave. Inside, there was a layer of powerful energy that was fluctuating unstably. Jianshan sat 5 meters away as he stared at the white cocoon. He had tossed the corpse of the Class 6 magical beast beside the cocoon. Strands of red gas drifted out from the blood, being absorbed by the cocoon. After absorbing the essence of the Class 6 magical beast blood, the energy within the cocoon became even more berserk. Even the aura it emitted became even more intense. It expanded from an initial range of 100 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers. I wonder how much longer it'll take for the white tiger to complete its breakthrough. Jianshan sat cross-legged 5 meters away with a trace of worry on his face. He could feel that the energy within the white cocoon was undergoing a qualitative change, and the essence in the blood of the magical beast was the nourishment that could increase the speed of the transformation. However, the amount of essence in the blood that the white tiger required was just too much, so Jianshan didn't have the time to hunt a sufficient number of Class 6 magical beasts. However, without the vital energies in the blood, the white tiger would need an endless amount of time to complete its breakthrough. Jianshan did not have that much time to wait in the artifact space. Since the blood of magical beasts can increase the speed of the white tiger's breakthrough, and my chaotic body's blood is clearly much more powerful than magical beast blood, the effects might be much greater if I use my blood, Jianshan murmured. A sliver of determination appeared in his eyes. Immediately, an azulate sword chi appeared on his finger. With a wave of his hand, he sliced his wrist. However, when the sword chi struck Jianshan's wrist, it only left behind a faint white mark. The sword chi failed to penetrate Jianshan's chaotic body. Jianshan was slightly surprised. He immediately condensed all the chaotic force within him into the chaotic Niden in his dantian, reducing the defenses of the chaotic body to a minimum. Afterward, he used the origin energy of the sword spirits to cut his wrist again. This time, his wrist was indeed cut, but it only left a wound that was less than an inch long. Before blood could flow out, the wound automatically healed. This goddamned chaotic body. Jianshan could not help but curse. Only now did he realize that being too powerful was not necessarily a good thing. With a flip of his hand, Jianshan pulled out the ruler armament he had taken from the ancestor of the Hongfu clan, the dragon-slaying sword. He immediately poured his surging saint force into the dragon-slaying sword, causing it to shine with a dark light. He then viciously swung it at his left wrist. Immediately, a deep wound appeared on Jianshan's wrist from the dragon-slaying sword. Bright red blood immediately flowed out. Jianshan immediately placed his left hand on the white tiger's cocoon and allowed his blood to drip onto the cocoon for the white tiger to absorb. As soon as Jianshan's blood landed on the white cocoon, it immediately entered the cocoon and disappeared. With that, the energy within the white cocoon became even more powerful. Jianshan could clearly sense that the energy within the white tiger was rapidly changing after absorbing his blood. It seemed to have become even more powerful. With the blood of my chaotic body, It should be of great help to the white tiger. Jianshun thought to himself. Blood constantly flowed out from his wrist and was absorbed by the white tiger. However, Jianshun's chaotic body was just too powerful. In just 3 seconds, the wound on Jianshun's wrist had closed up completely. With no other choice, Jianshun could only use his ruler armament to cut his wrist again and use his blood as nourishment to speed up the white tiger's breakthrough. As Jianshun's blood was absorbed by the white tiger, the presence that the white tiger gave off became more and more powerful. The tremendous presence was filled with a sense of dominance, as if a king was slowly awakening from his slumber. The range of the presence expanded from 1,000 kilometers to 10,000 kilometers, alarming many of the participants. All the magical beasts in this area seemed to have been greatly frightened, including the magical beasts of the 6th step. All of them prostrated themselves on the ground, shivering. Their eyes were filled with fear, as if they had received a great shock. 100 kilometers away, Kara, Livy, and the others all stopped. They all stared in the direction of the presence in shock. A Class 5 magical beast can actually give off such a tremendous presence after breaking through to Class 6. Moreover, the presence is filled with a sense of dominance. This is definitely a beast king with a very great background, an old man from the Kara clan said with a deep voice. His face was filled with undisguised envy. Is the infant beast by Yang Yutian's side actually a beast of antiquity? The light in Kara Livy's eyes flickered as she murmured. Several thousand kilometers away, a group of over 20 Radiant Saint Masters fought against 3 Class 6 magical beasts at the same time. Suddenly, a tremendous presence appeared in the distance, enveloping the entire region. With the sudden arrival of the presence, the 3 Class 6 magical beasts trembled violently. Their eyes immediately became filled with extreme fear, as if they had been greatly frightened. They whimpered and no longer had any interest in continuing the battle. They all fled as quickly as they could. The Radiant Saint Masters did not chase after them. Instead, they all looked in the direction of the presence. Their faces were filled with surprise. This should be the presence of a magical beast. I can clearly feel that the presence is filled with a sense of dominance. It looks like the origin of this magical beast is definitely not small. It's a beast king at the very least, an old man said with a deep voice. He was the leading Radiant Saint Master of the Tsar family, Zadalos. This presence isn't powerful. It should have just broken through from Class 5 to Class 6. However, it can scare away 3 Class 6 magical beasts and make them feel fear. This is definitely not something a beast king can do. In my opinion, it's extremely likely that this magical beast that has just broken through is a beast of antiquity. The person who spoke was an elegant, middle-aged man. He was the second disciple of the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, Yin Tian, a beast of antiquity. I never thought that I would actually find a beast of antiquity here. Zadalos muttered in a low voice. His expression was filled with excitement, and intense greed appeared in his eyes. This beast of antiquity has clearly just broken through, so it shouldn't be very powerful. Elder Zadalos, if we bring this beast of antiquity back to the ancestor will definitely be extremely happy, a Radiant Saint Master from the Tsar clan said excitedly. Zadalos's eyes immediately lit up. He laughed aloud. That's right. If we bring this beast of antiquity back to the ancestor, it will be a great contribution. Let's go. We'll capture this beast of antiquity and bring it back to the Tsar clan later. At the same time, in a distant place within the artifact space, there was a sealed forest. In the center of the forest, a small wooden hut stood all by itself. There were traces of time on it, and within the hut, a bare-chested middle-aged man sat on the ground with his legs crossed. Suddenly, the middle-aged man's eyes snapped open. Immediately, 2 bolts of lightning shot out from his eyes, piercing 2 holes in the wooden hut. What is this presence? It's actually enough to make me shiver. The middle-aged man stood up from the ground. His face was filled with shock, and then he silently disappeared from the wooden house. When he reappeared, he was already at the edge of the small forest. In front of him, a powerful sealing force sealed off the sky and locked down the earth, preventing the middle-aged man from moving forward. The middle-aged man stood before the seal. His eyes were filled with shock as he stared at the distant space. He frowned as he sank into his thoughts. Chapter 771. At the same time, in an unknown location within the artifact space, there was a sword-shaped mountain that had been sealed by the power of the Saint artifact. A middle-aged man in beast skins lay on the top of the mountain as he stared blankly at the hazy sky. A while later, the middle-aged man's eyes gradually shone. He let out a long sigh and cursed. That damned artifact spirit has actually sealed me here again. Humph, that damned Radiant Saint Master Union actually sends a group of ant-like Radiant Saint Masters to train here every 50 years, forcing me to be trapped here by that damned artifact spirit every 50 years. How outrageous! To think that I, a mighty Class 8 beast of antiquity, have actually been trapped here like a prisoner. That's a great insult to me. The middle-aged man clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. It's a pity that the Saint artifact is far too powerful. Even though I'm a Class 8 beast of antiquity, I'm not the opponent of that damned artifact spirit. I can't even fight back in the artifact space. Humph. Once I break through to Class 9, I'll definitely break out of this artifact space and escape. And that damned artifact spirit has trapped me for so long. I'll definitely teach it a vicious lesson to vent my anger. As soon as he reached there, the middle-aged man seemed to think of something. His face darkened, and he murmured, "It's a pity that I can't break through to Class 9 in the artifact space. This damned artifact space, and I'm going to be trapped here for the rest of my life until I die." Sigh. The middle-aged man let out a long sigh. His face was filled with helplessness. At this moment, the middle-aged man's face suddenly froze. Two streaks of extremely shocked light immediately shot out from his eyes. What is this presence? The middle-aged man's face was filled with shock. He had already stood up from the ground at some point in time. He stood on the peak of the mountain and stared at the distant horizon. His face was filled with doubt and surprise. What is this presence? This presence actually makes me tremble from the depths of my soul. This is impossible. It's impossible for a presence to make me tremble in the artifact space, even if it's that powerful artifact spirit. And this presence is clearly very weak. The middle-aged man was extremely shocked, but he was also puzzled. He really could not understand why the presence that was clearly very weak would make him tremble from the depths of his soul. Suddenly, an ancient memory from a legacy that had been sealed away for a very long time gradually appeared in the middle-aged man's head. He immediately paled in fright as disbelief filled his face. The ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. This is the presence of the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, the middle-aged man involuntarily exclaimed. His face was filled with shock. My inherited memories clearly record some information about the winged tiger from ancient times. The winged tiger is the god of our magical beasts, a supreme existence that has surpassed the Holy Emperor. Its strength has reached an earth-shaking level. Even the war god of the 100 races, Ruijin, died to the hands of the winged tiger. Yet now, I can actually sense the winged tiger's presence in the artifact space. How is this possible? How can the winged tiger appear here? As the winged tiger's presence radiated out, all the powerful magical beasts sealed within the artifact space sensed its existence. Their faces all changed drastically as they became shocked. They all began to guess what it was. In addition to those powerful magical beasts, even the contestants fighting in the artifact space sensed the white tiger's aura. There was no lack of knowledgeable people who immediately guessed that the aura was coming from an ancient exotic beast that was in the midst of a breakthrough. They all flew in the direction of the aura with various thoughts in their minds. The white tiger's breakthrough had caused just too great of a disturbance. Not only had it alarmed the powerful magical beasts sealed within, but it had even drawn over all the participants. A large number of white-robed Radiant Saint Masters flew in the direction of the white tiger from all directions. They had all temporarily given up on fighting due to the attraction of the beast. Very soon, A few radiant Saint Masters arrived outside the cave that Jinshin had created. The presence is coming from there. The magical beast that's breaking through should be in there. A radiant Saint Master pointed at the pitch-black cave up ahead. The magical beast has only just broken through, and it seems like it's still breaking through. Its strength has already dropped to its lowest level. Let's all charge in together and subdue it. Once we subdue a magical beast, our strength will definitely increase drastically. A radiant Saint Master called out. A radiant Saint Master called out from the crowd in an attempt to get some people to enter the cave and check out the situation. However, his words had no effect at all. The Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters present had all lived for a very long time, so they were not so easily fooled. Without understanding the situation in the cave, none of them dared to charge in recklessly. Perhaps some unknown danger awaited them up ahead. At the same time, magical beasts that had reached Class 5 were basically all adults. How could they be subdued so easily? The presence in the cave continued to grow stronger. Going from Class 5 to Class 6 was a qualitative leap for the White Tiger. Its energy was rapidly converting to Class 6, but since it was a winged tiger god, it had a much harder time breaking through than regular magical beasts. However, once it succeeded, its strength would experience a qualitative leap as well. It would no longer be something that regular magical beasts or beasts of antiquity could compare to. Jinshin was still constantly using his own blood to speed up the White Tiger's breakthrough. He knew exactly what was happening outside the cave, but he had no power to stop it. His face had also become rather pale from the large amount of blood he had lost. Another 2 hours passed very quickly. The number of Radiant Saint Masters gathered outside the cave had reached 100. They all stared at the cave as they discussed, but none of them were willing to scout it out. At this moment, another group of 20 or so people flew over from the distance. They directly flew over everyone's head and stopped 30 meters away from the cave. People from the Tsar family. They're the people from the Tsar family. The people from the Tsar family have also come, and there are quite a few of them. Looks like this beast of antiquity is most likely going to fall into the hands of the Tsar family. Forget it. Since the people from the Tsar family are involved, we should just give up. This Tsar family is not to be offended. The arrival of this group of people immediately caused quite a commotion. It immediately extinguished the greed in the hearts of a few people. Although the Tsar family was only one of the top 3 families in the Holy Emperor Kingdom, they were the strongest of the 3 families. They could even fight against the other 2 families by themselves. Their strength was so great that even some ancient families were unwilling to provoke them. The old man standing at the very front of the Tsar family seems to be Zadalos. He has already studied the radiant arts for several hundred years. His usage of the radiant arts has already reached the point of perfection. He is extremely powerful, and at the same time, he is ranked 4th on the top 10 experts rankings. The person standing beside Zadalos seems to be the second disciple of the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, Yin Tian. He is ranked 5th on the top 10 experts rankings. At this moment, another group of over 10 Radiant Saint Masters flew over from afar. Their arrival immediately attracted the attention of many Radiant Saint Masters. That is one of the 3 great families in the Holy Emperor Kingdom, the Tsar family. They must have come for the magical beast that is breaking through in the cave. Right now, 2 of the 3 great families in the Holy Emperor Kingdom have already arrived. Only the Kara family is not here yet. I think the Kara family will be here very soon. It is rumored that the young lady of the Kara family, Kara Livy, is ranked 1st on the top 10 experts rankings. Her strength has already reached the peak of the 6th class. She is known as the strongest person below the 7th class. In the blink of an eye, the originally quiet mountain range became lively with the arrival of this group of people. Now, the number of Radiant Saint Masters gathered outside the cave had already reached 500. Not only had all the famous families in the Holy Emperor Kingdom come, even 2 of the 3 great families had come. The Tsar family and the Kar family stood at the very front, closest to the cave. As soon as the 2 families saw each other, they looked at each other coldly. It was as if they were like fire and water, ready to fight at the slightest disagreement. The leader of the Tsar family, Zatalos, coldly stared at the group of people from the Kar family and sneered. Kar family, don't tell me you want to steal this exotic beast from our Tsar family? The leader of the Kar family was an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion. Hearing Zatalos' words, this old man called Kar family also sneered and replied, "This exotic beast has already reached the 6th class. How can it be so easy to tame it?" Zatalos, it is not that I am looking down on you, but even if you all attack together, you may not be able to capture a beast that has already reached the 6th class. Even if you capture it, with the pride of these exotic beasts, they will never submit to your Tsar family. Zatalos coldly snorted and said, "Whether or not we can capture and tame it is our Tsar family's matter. It is not up to your Kar family to tell us what to do." Kar family sneered and said, "Since that is the case, then let us all see with our own eyes whether or not your Tsar family can capture this exotic beast. If you can't even capture it, then taming it will be even more of a joke." Zatalos coldly snorted and immediately ignored Kar family. His eyes were fixed on the cave in front of him. There was a rare trace of graveness on his face as he said, "Zaslo, Zaysk, Zaryanhai, the three of you go in and check the situation inside." The situation inside the cave was unknown. Although Zatalos boasted that his strength was not weak, he did not dare to be too presumptuous in the artifact space. "Yes, Elder." Behind Zatalos, 3 middle-aged men immediately whispered in unison. Then they immediately condensed holy light armor to protect their bodies and cautiously approached the cave. In the artifact space, their lives were protected by the power of the artifact. As a result, even though the 3 of them knew that there might be unknown dangers ahead, they were not afraid at all. This was because they knew that even if they encountered danger, they would not die. At most, they would lose the right to participate in the competition. As the 3 of them cautiously advanced, all the Radiant Saint Masters present immediately gathered their gazes on the 3 of them. They all held their breaths and stared at them without blinking. Many of them had already put on holy light armor to deal with unexpected situations. Chapter 772. Just when the 3 of them approached the entrance, 3 streaks of white light suddenly shot out. They arrived before the 3 of them in a flash. They moved extremely quickly. The expressions of the 3 scouting class 6 Radiant Saint Masters changed drastically. Even though they were extremely cautious, they were unable to dodge the white light that had suddenly shot out of the cave. In the end, they were struck in the chest by the 3 white lights. Bang! 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 With 3 heavy thuds, the 3 Radiant Saint Masters who had gone to scout ahead were immediately blown away. Their radiant armor became riddled with cracks. Although the radiant armor had absorbed all the attacks for them, the powerful shockwaves were not something their frail bodies could endure. They vomited blood uncontrollably as they were blown away. Their faces paled. Radiant swords. Those are radiant swords. There's a Radiant Saint Master in the cave. Many Radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings immediately cried out. Although the 3 streaks of white light moved very quickly, the Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters could still sense the dense Radiant Saint force. Tatalos's face immediately sank. He said with a deep voice, "I never thought that someone would have entered the cave before us. The 3 Radiant Swords are extremely solid and powerful. There's only a handful of Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters who possess such strength. They definitely aren't nameless. From the strength of the attack, that person possesses the strength to rank among the 10 great experts at the very least," Yin Tian said as he stood beside Tatalos. The light in his eyes flickered. Just a single Radiant Sword was enough to shatter the Radiant armor and heavily injure 3 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters. Even Old Man wouldn't be able to use such a powerful attack. "The person in the cave is definitely stronger than Old Man," Tatalos said with a deep voice. His face was very ugly. Hearing this, Yin Tian's heart skipped a beat as he thought, right now, of the 3 great families, only the Kara family is not here. Moreover, Kara Li Wei is the #1 existence in the top 10 expert groups. Could it be that the people in the cave are them? Thinking of this, Yin Tian immediately said to the cave, "I wonder which brother is in the cave. Please come out and meet me." Yin Tian did not receive a reply even after quite a while, which made him rather embarrassed. His face immediately became rather sunken as he coldly said, "Since brother is unwilling to come out, I'll have to go in personally." Yin Tian did not approach the cave. Instead, he condensed a radiant sword and shot it into the cave with lightning speed. Boom! Suddenly, a muffled sound came from within the cave. Following this attack, the entire cave had expanded quite a bit. In the depths of the cave, a 2-meter-wide radiant shield slowly dispersed. Jianshan slowly pulled back his bleeding hand. The dragon-slaying sword in his right hand had vanished as well, having been stowed away in his space ring. Afterward, he slowly made his way out with a sunken face. Jianshan had already removed the barrier around the cave. Far too many Radiant Saint Masters had gathered outside, so he did not want too many people to know that he could cast down barriers. Otherwise, even if his identity would not be exposed, it would still lead to some unnecessary trouble and suspicion. After the white tiger had absorbed his blood, the amount of time it needed to break through had drastically decreased. Jianshan could sense that the white tiger had reached the final juncture. It only needed a few more hours to become a Class 6 magical beast. What he needed to do now was to stop the people outside with all his might before the white tiger broke through. He needed to prevent them from causing any harm to the white tiger. Outside the cave, Zatalos sensed the rapidly rising aura. His expression became more and more stern as he said with a deep voice, "The ancient beast inside will break through completely very soon. Once it successfully breaks through, the difficulty of subduing it will increase by a lot. We can't wait any longer. Everyone, follow me. Let's charge in." With that, Zatalos led the people of the Tsar family and prepared to charge in. Those who step into the cave die. At this moment, an ice-cold voice boomed from within the cave. The voice was so loud that it actually caused the eardrums of all the Radiant Saint Masters present to ache. As he spoke, a young man in his 20s wearing a white robe appeared at the entrance of the cave. Seeing this young man, the eyes of the people of the Tsar family suddenly narrowed. Even Yin Tian's expression changed slightly. "Yang Yuqian, it's actually you." The leader of the Tsar family, Zatalos, stared at Jianshan with a cold gaze. His voice was deep and heavy with killing intent. "Junior Yang Yuqian, I never thought it would actually be you inside." Yin Tian also stared at Jianshan with some surprise before sneering. "Yang Yuqian, he's the legendary Yang Yuqian?" The people of the Tsar family all looked at Jianshan and studied him curiously. They had heard of Yang Yuqian's name after coming to the City of God, but today was the first time they had seen Yang Yuqian's true appearance. "Yang Yuqian, is he Yang Yuqian?" It said that Yang Yuqian is only 24 this year, yet he's already a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master. Yang Yuqian is an unprecedented prodigy. It said that he's the most outstanding genius in the history of our continent. Not only has he become a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master at 24, but his grasp of radiant arts has reached an extremely profound level as well. Yang Yuqian killed over 30 Heaven Saint Masters on the Fragrance River all by himself and survived the attack of a Saint Ruler. His strength has already far surpassed Karalives, who ranks first on the Fragrance River. It's said that Yang Yuqian is the reincarnation of a Class 8 Radiant Saint Master from ancient times. He'll definitely become a powerful Class 8 Radiant Saint Master in the future. As all the Radiant Saint Masters present learned of Yang Yuqian's name, it immediately caused an uproar in the crowd. A series of discussions rang out. Zatalos emotionlessly stared at Jianshan, who stood at the entrance of the cave, and said with a deep voice, "Yang Yuqian, is the beast breaking through in the cave yours?" Jianshan's gaze landed on Zatalos. Although he had never seen Zatalos before, he was familiar with the 8 clans behind Zatalos. From where they stood, he could tell that the old man who spoke was definitely a member of the Tsar family, and his status was quite high. The matter of him being attacked by 2 peak assassin organizations in the City of God quickly flashed through his head, causing a cold light to flash through Jianshan's eyes. He coldly said, "That's right. The magical beast breaking through in the cave belongs to me. Please back off a little and don't disturb Xiao Bai's breakthrough. Otherwise, you'll become my enemy." The surrounding Radiant Saint Masters hesitated slightly before a small portion of them backed off. Clearly, they were unwilling to provoke Yang Yuqian. The leader of the Kaza family, Kazid, hesitated slightly before clasping his hands at Jianshun. "Since Brother Yang Yuqian's beast is breaking through in there, our Kaza family won't disturb you any further." With that, Kazid led the people of the Kaza family 2 kilometers away. They watched from the sidelines, clearly not planning on opposing Jianshun. A beast of antiquity. I never thought that the young beast would actually be a beast of antiquity, and it has already reached class 6. Envy filled Yin Tian's eyes. Beasts of antiquity were extremely rare on the Tian Yuan continent. Once they matured, their battle prowess would be extremely great. They were known to be invincible among the same level of cultivation. If someone had a beast of antiquity by their side, they would be able to do whatever they wanted on the Tian Yuan continent. However, Yin Tian had never thought that the white tiger sleeping on Jianshun's shoulder would actually be a beast of antiquity, which filled him with both envy and jealousy. Yang Yuqian, old man, is extremely curious about the beast breaking through in the cave as well. "Why don't you let us go in and take a look?" Zadalo smiled at Jianshun as a cold light flashed through his eyes. Jianshun replied, "While Xiao Bai is breaking through, anyone who approaches the cave will be my enemy. I will use all my strength to kill them. I will not leave anyone behind, no matter who they are." Jianshun glanced at Yin Tian, intentionally or otherwise. "Yang Yuqian, you are far too arrogant. Do you know who you are talking to? If you offend my Kaza family, even the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union will not be able to protect you." A middle-aged man behind Zadalo's sternly shouted. Jianshun coldly glanced at everyone before sitting down at the entrance of the cave. He said, "Anyone who approaches 30 meters from the entrance will be killed without mercy." The people of the Kaza family paled in anger. They had actually been threatened by Junior. This was definitely a great humiliation to them. Meanwhile, Zadalos was so angry that he laughed, saying, "This old man wants to see if you, Yang Yuqian, are as powerful as the rumors say." The Radiant Saint force in the surroundings immediately gathered over, condensing into a set of silver-white armor on Zadalos very soon. A radiant shield condensed on his left hand as well. Radiant armor. The 20 or so Radiant Saint Masters behind Zadalos called out in unison. As a bright light enveloped them, all of them donned radiant armor. Zadalos snorted coldly before taking a step forward. He directly made his way to the cave. Behind him, the Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters all followed closely behind him. They were all cautious, and quite a few of them had already condensed radiant swords, ready for battle. When Zadalos arrived 30 meters away, a sliver of intense killing intent immediately flashed through Jianshun's eyes. He sneered, "I just happen to lack some battle achievements. Since you've obediently delivered them to me, I won't hold back." Several sacred light swords condensed in front of Jianshun at the same time, and like lightning, they shot towards the Tsar family members at the very front. Chapter 773. With a loud bang, the sacred light swords from both sides collided. It was as if a ball of white flame had exploded. The dense Radiant Saint force turned into a ball of bright light that illuminated the entire space. The Radiant Saint force that was filled with determination and power was like a storm that wreaked havoc in all directions, causing the sand and rocks on the ground to fly into the air. Dust filled the air, and quite a few mountain rocks were blasted apart, shooting in all directions. The 20 or so Radiant Saint Masters from the Tsar family all wore sacred light armor. They condensed sacred light shields in front of their chests to resist the devastating shockwaves of energy and the flying rocks. Jianshun's hand grabbed at the air, and a huge sacred light shield rapidly condensed. He then placed it behind him to block the entrance of the cave, preventing the shockwaves of energy from entering the cave and affecting the white tiger. As for himself, he did not have any form of protection, allowing the violent shockwaves of energy to wildly attack his body. Jinshin's body was like a pillar that supported the heavens. When the violent shockwaves of energy struck his body, not only did they not cause him any harm, they could not even shake his body. Just as the 20 or so Radiant Saint Masters from the Tsar family were still resisting the shockwaves of Radiant Saint Force, Jinshin had already extended his hands once again and muttered in a low voice, "Sacred Light Sword." Suddenly, the shockwaves of energy that were rushing towards Jinshin abruptly came to a halt. Afterwards, under the incredulous gazes of countless Radiant Saint Masters, the shockwaves of energy became docile. They were forcefully controlled by Jinshin and rapidly condensed into 9 sacred light swords before him. Swish, 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 9 whistling sounds rang out, and the 9 sacred light swords turned into white streaks of light and split into 3 waves, respectively shooting towards the 3 Radiant Saint Masters. The first wave of sacred light swords arrived and broke the sacred light shields of the 3 Radiant Saint Masters. The second wave of sacred light sword arrived and shattered the Radiant Saint Masters' sacred light armor, causing them to fly backwards while vomiting blood. Finally, the third wave of sacred light swords arrived and pierced through the chests of the 3 Radiant Saint Masters like a hot knife through butter. The 3 Radiant Saint Masters could not help but wail out from the intense pain. Blood gushed out from their bodies, dyeing their pure white clothes red. In particular, when the Radiant Sword had passed through their bodies, a strand of Radiant Saint Force remained, wreaking havoc in their bodies. If they were fighters, they would have been able to use their tremendous Saint Force to wipe out the strand of Radiant Saint Force. Unfortunately, they were only Radiant Saint Masters. Even with their Radiant Saint Force and great healing abilities, they were unable to get rid of the Radiant Saint Force that was wreaking havoc in their bodies. Just as the 3 Radiant Saint Masters were shocked, 3 huge pillars of light descended from the sky. They directly enveloped the 3 of them and vanished. They had been taken out of the artifact space. Seeing that they had lost 3 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters just from a single photo, Zataloz's heart immediately sank. His expression became extremely ugly. Although he knew that Yang Yuqian was very powerful, he had never thought that he would be so powerful that he could kill 3 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters so easily. Yang Yuqian, how bold of you to actually injure the people of our Tsar family, Zataloz shouted. Even though he was shocked by Yang Yuqian's strength, he was not afraid in the slightest in the artifact space because it was impossible for him to be in any life-threatening situation here. If he left the artifact space, he still had the support of the entire Tsar family behind him. At the same time, Yang Yuqian was someone that the Tsar family had to eliminate. As a result, Zataloz was not afraid of offending Jinshin at all. Jinshin's ability to easily kill 3 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters was witnessed by all the Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters present. They were all shocked, and all sorts of exclamations could be heard. Not only is he unscathed from the encirclement of over 20 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters, he even managed to kill 3 of them with lightning speed. Is this Yang Yuqian's strength? This Yang Yuqian is just too powerful. The rumors really are true. Looks like the rumors about Yang Yuqian killing over 30 Heaven Saint Masters on the Fragrance River are true. He really does have the strength to do so. This Yang Yuqian is without a doubt the strongest person below the Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. With such strength, I'm afraid that even Kara Livy, who ranks first among the top 10, is not his opponent. Members of the Tsar family, don't even think about getting into the top 10 in this competition. Jinshin roared towards the sky. The Radiant Saint Force in the surroundings began to surge violently, gathering towards Jinshin at an unbelievable speed. Then, under Jinshin's full control, the Radiant Saint Force condensed into radiant swords that shot towards the members of the Tsar family. Tataloz's expression was solemn as he joined forces with the other members of the Tsar family to engage in an intense battle with Jinshin outside the cave. Due to the lesson from before, none of them dared to be careless. They all used their full strength and unleashed their full strength. Boundless rain, Jinshin bellowed out as countless raindrops condensed in front of him. After that, they rained down on the people from the Tsar family who were surrounding him. Not only did they block the radiant swords, even the radiant shields that protected them received a huge impact. The light on the shields rapidly weakened, and there were even 2 shields that directly shattered. The raindrops that filled the sky directly landed on the Radiant Saint Masters, causing white spots to appear on the Radiant Saint Masters' radiant armor. This boundless rain actually possesses such power. Seeing this scene, a few of the spectating Radiant Saint Masters exclaimed in shock. This boundless rain, I'm afraid that only Yang Yutian could display such power. An old man stood in the crowd and murmured. Jinshin used the boundless rain to pin down the members of the Tsar family. Then he condensed 9 radiant swords once again and shot them towards 3 Radiant Saint Masters with blinding light. Following 3 miserable cries, another 3 Radiant Saint Masters had their chests pierced through by the radiant swords. In the end, they were driven away by the power of the Saint artifact, losing their qualifications to participate in the competition. In the blink of an eye, the Tsar family and the 8 great clans had lost 6 of their 20 people. Only a dozen or so people were still engaged in an intense battle with Jinshin. Zatalos suddenly looked at Yin Tian, who was standing behind him, and roared loudly. Yin Tian, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Hearing that, a light flickered in Yin Tian's eyes. Hesitation appeared on his face. Jinshin's strength had far exceeded his expectations. Even without using the 3 radiant swords, he already possessed such a powerful battle prowess. No one could stop him. Once he used the 3 radiant swords, who would be his opponent? Yin Tian hesitated for a moment. Soon after, a sliver of determination appeared in his eyes. He thought to himself, in order for me to become the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union in the future, I can only go all out this time. Moreover, Kara Livy will probably be here very soon. By then, with their participation, even if this Yang Yutian uses the 3 radiant swords, we will still have the power to contend against him. After making up his mind, Yin Tian immediately took action. He quickly condensed a radiant armor on his body before condensing a radiant shield in front of him. Sensing Yin Tian's actions, a cold light flashed in Jinshin's eyes. With a deep voice, he said, Senior Yin Tian, you actually dare to attack me. Yang Yutian, don't blame your senior brother. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for appearing at such a bad time. This time, your senior brother will stop you from entering the top 10 no matter what, Yin Tian said in a deep voice. With a wave of his hand, a radiant sword immediately condensed, shooting towards Jinshin with lightning speed. Jinshin also condensed a radiant sword to shatter Yin Tian's radiant sword. He said emotionlessly, if that's the case, don't blame me, Yang Yutian, for being merciless. Senior Yin Tian, this time, it's impossible for you to enter the top 10 no matter what. Yin Tian's face sank. He called out coldly, Yang Yutian, I admit that you are indeed very powerful, but it's still a little too early to say that. With that, Yin Tian suddenly looked at the group of Radiant Saint Masters behind him. He called out, everyone, it's time for you to take action. Once it's done, I will fulfill all of your conditions. With that, over 30 people walked out from the group of spectating Radiant Saint Masters. One of them looked at Yin Tian and said, Yin Tian, I hope you're a man of your word. With that, the person directly joined the encirclement against Jinshin. Afterwards, the other people all joined in as well. In the blink of an eye, the encirclement against Jinshin had expanded from over a dozen people to over 50. Immediately, the pressure on Jinshin skyrocketed. However, Jinshin did not panic at all. Suddenly, a gleam of light exploded from Jinshin's eyes. He pointed at the sky and called out, Ruling Sword. The expressions of all the Radiant Saint Masters surrounding Jinshin changed drastically when they heard the words Ruling Sword. We can't let him use the 3 divine techniques. Hurry up and interrupt them, Zatalos called out. Streaks of radiant swords shot out from his hand like lightning, but their target was not Jinshin. Instead, They targeted the figure of the radiant sword that constantly condensed above Jinshin's head. As soon as the radiant swords approached the figure of the radiant sword, they exploded loudly, turning into violent ripples of energy that disrupted the formation of the radiant sword. Afterwards, the 50 radiant Saint Masters became unprecedentedly stern. They all used their full strength to attack the radiant sword that constantly condensed above Jinshin's head. With constant bangs, the figure of the radiant sword that rapidly condensed above Jinshin's head actually began to waver under the constant attacks of the 50 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters. In the end, it actually slowly dispersed. Just like that, Jinshin's 3 divine arts were interrupted while they were still charging up. Junior Yang Yutian, I'd like to see how you'll defeat us now that you've lost the advantage of the 3 divine techniques. Yin Tian laughed aloud. His face was filled with complacency. He seemed to have seen the dawn of victory. Chapter 774. Jinshin looked at Yin Tian, and a sliver of mockery appeared in his eyes. He said, "So what if you can stop me from using the 3 techniques? Do you think you can injure me? Even Saint Rulers can't injure me, let alone you Class 6, Radiant Saint Masters who are nowhere near as strong as me." With a flash of white light, over 30 radiant swords shot toward Jinshin from all directions as if they were blotting out the sky. "You want to injure me with mere radiant swords?" Jinshin bellowed out. This time he did not dodge at all. He stood there with his arms open, allowing the radiant swords to strike him. The primordial god silk shone with a faint, golden light that enveloped Jinshin. As soon as the radiant swords came in contact with the light, they dispersed at a visible rate, disappearing in the blink of an eye. All the radiant saint force within them had been absorbed by the primordial god silk. Yin Tian's face immediately sank when he saw this. He stared at the golden light around Jinshin with deep jealousy. He knew that it must be the defensive treasure on Jinshin, the golden silk armor. If I have the golden silk armor, the weakness of radiant saint masters will no longer exist. I won't even have to fear saint rulers. I have to obtain the golden silk armor. Yin Tian gritted his teeth. He had already made up his mind to obtain the golden silk armor no matter what. This defensive treasure really is powerful. It really is worthy of being a treasure that can block attacks from saint rulers. It's actually nullified over 30 radiant sword from Class 6, Radiant Saint Masters, so easily. Zadalo stared at Jinshin with shining eyes. Undisguised greed filled his eyes as he thought, I have to obtain the golden silk armor. If I wear it, I'll even be able to flee from saint rulers. Is this Yang Yutian's defensive treasure? It's actually so powerful. The people of the Kaza clan were shocked as well. All of them looked at Jinshin with deep greed. Even saint rulers would be tempted by such a powerful defensive treasure, let alone them. The radiant swords were absorbed by the primordial god silk as soon as they came in contact with Jinshin. Everyone's eyes widened when they saw this. They stared at the faint, golden light around Jinshin as disbelief flooded their faces. Jinshin did not hesitate at all. With a thought, 9 radiant swords rapidly condensed and shot toward the 3 radiant saint masters closest to him. He heavily injured them before they were taken away by the power of the saint artifact. Of the radiant saint master, the miserable cries of the 3 radiant saint masters alerted everyone, causing them to return to their senses. They all retreated rapidly, pulling away from Jinshin. Don't be afraid, everyone. Yang Yutian's golden silk armor has blocked our attacks, so its energy will definitely be depleted. Let's attack him together to deplete the armor's energy. Once he loses the protection of the armor, Yang Yutian won't be able to stop so many of us, even if he has 3 heads and 6 arms, Yin Tian said, loudly before waving his hand. Another radiant sword shot toward Jinshin. Jinshin's gaze toward Yin Tian was filled with heavy killing intent. The 9 radiant swords immediately hovered before him, shooting toward Yin Tian in a straight line as a streak of light. We can't let Yang Yutian take us down one by one. Everyone, disperse the radiant swords from Yang Yutian. Deplete his energy and preserve our strength. He definitely won't be able to last for long against so many of us by himself, Satyrs called out. He immediately condensed 3 radiant swords and shot them out with lightning speed. They dispersed 3 of the 9 radiant swords that shot toward Yin Tian. The radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings seemed to have been incited by Zatira's as well. They all shot out radiant swords or condensed radiant shields to assist Yin Tian. Under the combined efforts of over 50 radiant Saint Masters of the same level, Jinshin's 9 radiant swords were all dispersed in the air. They failed to harm Yin Tian at all. Jinshin's face became rather sunken. None of the radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings were weak. If they worked together like this, it really would be difficult for him to kill any one of them unless he could successfully use the 3 divine techniques or expose his strength as a fighter. Exposing his strength as a fighter was definitely not an option. The 3 divine techniques were the most powerful abilities that only Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters could use after all. Although Jinshin could barely use them with his strength as a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, the 3 divine techniques he used were incomplete. They needed time to charge up, and it was very easy for them to be interrupted during the charging process. As a result, it would be very difficult for Jinshin to kill over 50 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters with his strength as a Radiant Saint Master. "Brother Yang Yuqian, let me help you." Suddenly, a long whistle rang out from afar. A few streaks of white light rapidly approached from afar. The person in the lead was Quan Yukai, who had not seen Jinshin since they parted ways on the boat. Quan Yukai stood on a white cloud, leading his companions as they rapidly approached Jinshin. His eyes were filled with appraisal as he said, "No matter who the enemy is this time, I, Quan Yukai, will not give up. Once I save Brother Yang Yutian from a life and death situation, it will be a great contribution. At that time, he might really be able to pass on the 3 divine techniques to me. In order to obtain the 3 divine techniques, I, Quan Yukai, am willing to give it up." Seeing the reason why Jinshin had come, Zatalo's and Yin Tian's faces immediately sank. Zatalo's immediately shouted, "This is a matter of my Tsar family. Unrelated people, please do not interfere. Otherwise, you will become an enemy of our Tsar family." After Zatalo's finished speaking, Yin Tian did not want to be left behind. He loudly said, "There's also our Radiant Saint Master Union. Once someone interferes, they will become an enemy of our Radiant Saint Master Union. God damn, why are all of Yang Yutian's enemies more and more powerful? Last time it was the 8 great clans. This time, it is the leaders of the 8 great clans. Moreover, he has even offended the Radiant Saint Master Union." Quan Yotsai's face changed slightly as he hurried over. A sliver of doubt appeared in his eyes as he said, "That's not right. This Yang Yutian is the disciple of the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union. It's impossible for him to become an enemy of the Radiant Saint Master Union." The person who spoke seemed to be the president's second disciple. "Oh, I understand." Quan Yukai suddenly understood. He laughed aloud and replied, "Yin Tian, you can't represent the Radiant Saint Master Union. Little brother Yang Yuqian, let me help you. I, Quan Yukai, will definitely not watch the future successor of the Radiant Saint Master Union fall into the hands of others. You are the future president of the Radiant Saint Master Union. You can't be defeated by these people." Yin Tian's face became extremely gloomy. Quan Yotsai's words had crossed his bottom line. It was unbearable. "Quan Yukai, there will be plenty of time in the future. I, Yin Tian, will remember what happened today," Yin Tian said through gritted teeth. "Yin Tian, how dare you speak such arrogant words? How dare you become an enemy of the future president of the Radiant Saint Master Union? Don't even think about staying in the Union in the future." Quan Yukai had always been an unruly person. Although he feared authority, he did not fear it. At the same time, he seemed to be certain that Jinshin would become the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union. As a result, he did not show any respect to Jinshin at all. "Quan Yukai, you're looking to die." Yin Tian was infuriated. He actually gave up on attacking Jinshin and flew toward Quan Yukai. Very soon, he engaged in a great battle with Quan Yukai. The Radiant Saint Masters who had come with Quan Yukai stood in the distance. They did not take part in the battle. Clearly, they did not want to get involved in this mess. Yin Tian was not weak. He was someone who ranked among the 10 great experts. He could fend off several experts of the same level effortlessly all by himself. With his departure, the attacks on Jianshan immediately weakened, reducing the pressure on Jianshan drastically. Jianshan used this opportunity to block all the attacks with the primordial god Silk. He rapidly approached the Radiant Saint Masters and condensed a radiant sword. In the blink of an eye, he killed another 4 people, taking them away with the power of the Saint artifact and disqualifying them from the competition. Yin Tian, come back. Zadaloz's face changed slightly. If this continued, the 50 Radiant Saint Masters on his side would be wiped out one by Yang Yutian sooner or later. Yin Tian's expression changed slightly. He had also noticed the situation on the other side, but he had to restrain Quan Yukai. Although Quan Yukai wasn't a member of the top 10 experts list, his strength was still extremely strong. He was strong enough to challenge the top 10 experts list. If he was allowed to rush in and heavily injure the people on his side, the situation would become even worse. At this moment, Yin Tian seemed to sense something. He used the Radiant Shield to block Quan Yotsai's attack before turning his head to look into the distance. He saw a few people rapidly approach him from afar. The person in the lead was a woman who seemed to be in her 20s. She possessed a beauty that outshone the moon and flowers. Yin Tian immediately beamed with joy. He called out in a hurry, "Miss Cara Livy, you've come at the perfect time. Assist Zadalos in dealing with Yang Yutian. Once we're done, I definitely won't forget about the conditions I promised." The people who had come were the people from the Cara clan. They were led by Cara Livy, who ranked first on the rankings. They directly charged toward Jianshan. Chapter 775. Cara Livy directly charged into the battlefield with the 6 Radiant Saint Masters from her clan. They had already donned radiant armor and condensed a radiant shield that was 1.5 meters in diameter on their left arm. Jianshan frowned slightly. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Cara Livy. A cold light flickered through his eyes, but his eyes narrowed soon after. A strange smile appeared on his lips. He struck out with his full strength and killed another 3 Radiant Saint Masters, allowing them to be swept away by the power of the Saint artifact. Cara Livy, attack Yang Yutian with your full strength. Waste away his strength, Zadalos said in a deep voice. Zadalos bellowed. He was already showing signs of not being able to hold on. If his men were killed by Yang Yutian again, he would definitely break through the encirclement. Cara Livy remained silent the entire time. She flew straight towards Zadalos and called out, "Kill!" Cara Livy and the 6 clansmen behind her struck out at the same time. They condensed radiant swords and shot them out with lightning speed. However, the radiant swords were not aimed at Jianshan. Instead, they were aimed at the Tsar family and the 8 clans of the City of God. Zadalos was personally attacked by Cara Livy. The sudden change of events made all the people from the Tsar family pale, as if they had never thought that the people of the Cara family would actually attack them. However, they were unable to take any defensive measures in time. Caught off guard, they were directly struck by the radiant swords from the experts of the Cara family. As 7 loud explosions rang out, a total of 7 powerful experts from the Tsar family, including Zadalos, were severely injured. Their sacred light armors were shattered, and they were sent flying while vomiting blood. Cara Livy, what are you doing? Yin Tian paled in fright as he fought against Quan Yukai. He cried out anxiously. Cara Livy was someone of utmost importance. Her existence would determine who the scales of victory tilted towards. If Yang Yutian obtained Cara Livy's assistance, his plan would fail miserably. Cara Livy, what do you mean by this? Zadalos stood up from the ground with a pale face. At this moment, there was blood at the corner of his mouth, and his face was terrifyingly gloomy. Cara Livy's strength had already surpassed his, and her unexpected attack had caught him off guard, causing him to be seriously injured. Cara Livy ignored Zadaros. She looked at Jianshan and shouted, "Yang Yutian, I, Cara Livy, represent the Cara family to help you." Cara Livy, you didn't keep your word. You clearly agreed to help me deal with Yang Yutian. Yin Tian's mad roar rang out from afar. His voice was filled with unwillingness and anger. Kara Livy was not angry at all. She smiled and said, Yin Tian, you are really muddle-headed. Li Wei only asked you to bring us to find Yang Yutian. She did not agree to help you deal with Yang Yutian. Kara Livy, why would... Yin Tian was flustered and exasperated. He flew into a rage, but he could not find anything to say. In the end, he could only roar crazily. Kara Livy, I hope you don't regret this. Yin Tian's eyes were red. He was very unwilling. He was about to succeed, but he never thought that Kara Livy would suddenly side with Jianshan, causing the victory that should have belonged to him to lean towards Jianshan. The addition of Kara Livy and the others immediately reduced the pressure on Jianshan. Jianshan clasped his hands at Kara Livy and said, Miss Kara Livy, I will remember your kindness today. I will definitely repay you in the future. Kara Livy smiled. Yang Yuqian, Li Wei has taken a very great risk to help you. I hope you will not forget what Li Wei has done for you today. Jianshan said nothing. He quickly retreated before pointing at the sky and yelling out, Sword of Adjudication. Jianshan used the Sword of Adjudication a second time. The radiant saint force in the surroundings immediately condensed, condensing into a huge figure above Jianshan's head very soon. Stop him. Don't let him use the Sword of Adjudication successfully. Zatalos forcefully endured his injuries as he yelled out. Afterwards, he condensed the radiant sword with some difficulty and shot it at Jianshan. Zatalos, do you think I, Kara Livy, am transparent? Kara Livy cried out as she shot out a radiant sword to block Zatalos' attack. Afterwards, the 6 radiant Saint Masters of the Kara clan also used their full strength to provide cover for Jianshan, buying precious time for Jianshan. This time, no one could stop the condensation of the Sword of Adjudication. Jianshan successfully used the Sword of Adjudication. Immediately, a tremendous pressure filled the surroundings. The terrifying pulses of energy within the Sword of Adjudication seemed to possess the power to destroy the world, causing everyone's expression to change drastically. Oh no, retreat. The radiant Saint Masters surrounding Jianshan all retreated in shock. Even the people of the Tsar clan were no exception. Zatalos' expression became ugly. He stared at the huge radiant sword above Jianshan's head with a sunken face. His eyes were filled with jealousy. He no longer bothered with Kara Livy and quickly retreated. Jianshan's gaze was extremely sharp. He immediately locked onto the people of the Tsar clan. Using his mind, he controlled the huge radiant sword above his head to slash down at the people of the Tsar clan with lightning speed. The radiant sword tore through the air, leaving behind a beautiful streak of white light. Its speed was extremely fast. The moment the radiant sword slashed down, the radiant Saint Masters who were locked onto immediately felt like their bodies were bound by an invisible force. They were unable to move at all. They could only watch as the radiant sword slashed down. The radiant Saint Masters were so frightened that their faces were drained of blood. Facing the huge radiant sword, not only were they unable to dodge, they could not even think of resisting. The radiant Sword of Adjudication had completely destroyed the last line of defense in their hearts. It made them feel like they were so close to death. At the moment of life and death, a few huge pillars of light descended from the sky, wrapping around the bodies of the radiant Saint Masters and disappearing. The radiant sword did not slow down at all as it slashed down on the ground. Boom! With a violent rumble, the entire ground shook violently. A huge chasm, several meters wide and over 10 meters deep, was created by the radiant sword. It stretched for over 1,000 meters. Damn it! Yang Yutian's Sword of Judgment is so powerful, said Yi Futian. Seeing this, Yin Tian paled in fright as he fought against Quan Yukai in the distance. He immediately abandoned Quan Yukai and fled. Our plan against Yang Yutian has failed. Staying here will only lead to death. If we don't leave now, we probably won't even have the chance to escape later, Yin Tian thought. Energy surged in the sky. Under Jinshin's control, the huge radiant sword shot toward Zatalos and the others as a white streak of light. Even though Zatalos' face was sunken, he did not panic. He He fished out a thumb-sized piece of jade from his bosom and sneered at Jianshin. Yang Yutian, you definitely won't succeed today. This piece of jade was bestowed to me by an ancestor of my Tsar family. It contains the power of an attack from him. Even if you have a defensive treasure, you definitely won't be able to block an attack from an expert like the Holy Emperor. With that, Zatalos dripped a drop of his blood onto the piece of jade without any hesitation. Immediately, a terrifyingly powerful pressure radiated from the piece of jade. Before the pressure, the world seemed to tremble. The radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings felt like a huge rock had struck their chests. They could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood as they immediately retreated. The piece of jade was the Tsar family's trump card to stop Jianshin from becoming a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. It could not be used unless it was absolutely necessary. This was because the threat Jianshin posed to the Tsar family was no less than the current president. Once Jianshin successfully broke through to the Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, he would become a great hindrance to the Tsar family's plans to take over the Radiant Saint Master Union. Jianshin's eyes suddenly narrowed, and he became stern for the first time. He growled, "This is the power of the Holy Emperor." Chaotic force surged out from the chaotic night and instantly filled every corner of Jianshin's body, pushing the power of his chaotic body to its limits. At the same time, the huge Sword of Judgment gave up on attacking the others under Jianshin's control. It shot straight toward Zatalos in hopes of stopping Zatalos from using the power of the Holy Emperor. Haha, Yang Yuqian, it's too late. Before the power of the ancestor, probably even the power of the Saint Artifact will not be able to protect you. Zatalos laughed aloud. The surging energy from the piece of jade quickly condensed into a 3-meter-long finger before him. He then extended it towards Jianshin. With the finger, time seemed to come to a standstill. Space seemed to freeze. At that moment, the finger seemed to become the only thing in the world. All light paled in comparison to it. The incoming Sword of Judgment was directly reduced to nothingness with the finger. It did not kick up any shockwaves. Afterwards, an invisible force of the world passed through the Sword of Judgment, piercing through the defense of the primordial god Silk, and striking Jianshin's chest heavily. Before the finger, Jianshin was unable to resist at all. The finger was an attack from a Holy Emperor. It contained all the abilities of the Holy Emperor. His presence was locked onto, and his body was trapped. He could not dodge at all. Spurt! Jianshin vomited a mouthful of blood at the sky. His clothes were reduced to dust, revealing the golden armor woven from the primordial god Silk. The armor was dim, as if it had used up all its power. Jianshin was blown away like a cannonball, heavily smashing into the rocks behind him. With a great boom, the entire mountain range shook gently. Jianshin had already sunk deep into the mountain, creating a 100-meter deep hole in the tough rock. Jianshin constantly vomited blood as he sank into the mountain. The ancestor of the Tsar family was far more powerful than the ruler of the Gilligan clan. Not only did a single finger pierce through the defense of the primordial god Silk, but even his chaotic body had been shattered. His organs and bones had all been reduced to dust by the tremendous force. If it were not for the primordial god Silk that had absorbed a portion of the power for Jianshin, Jianshin probably would have been even more injured. Chapter 776. The Jade Stone only contained the power of the Holy Emperor's attack. After the attack, the huge finger disappeared as well. However, the power it created was extremely great. Not only did it heavily injure Jianshin, it even caused the ground within 100 meters to sink by a meter due to the pressure of the huge energy. This was because the Holy Emperor's power was extremely condensed and did not leak out at all. If the power of the finger was completely released, the surrounding 100 kilometers would probably be reduced to nothingness. No one present would be able to survive. The surrounding Radiant Saint Masters were all dumbstruck as they stood in the distance. They were all frightened by the power of the Holy Emperor's attack. Although the attack was not targeted at them, it left a shock in their hearts that could never be erased. In the distance, Yin Tian also stopped fleeing. His face was filled with shock as he said with a trembling voice, "I never thought that the ancestor of the Tsar family would actually leave behind a strike for Zatalos." It looks like their determination to eliminate Yang Yuqian is even greater than mine. Afterwards, Yin Tian became excited as he muttered to himself emotionally. This time, Yang Yuqian is dead for sure. So what if he has a defensive treasure on him? Can it help him block the attack of the Holy Emperor? Oh right, that defensive treasure can't fall into the hands of the Tsar family. Thinking up to there, Yin Tian immediately gave up on fleeing and charged towards Jianshan at full speed. Yang Yuqian, you have taken a strike from the ancestor. Even if you have the protection of a defensive treasure, you won't be able to survive. Just the power of the shockwave is enough to shatter your body. Now, that defensive treasure on you belongs to our Tsar family. Zatalos laughed aloud as he quickly flew towards the cave that Jianshan had created. He had already determined that Jianshan had died from the ancestor's attack. Even the Saint artifact would not be able to protect him. Zataros rushed into the hole that Jianshan had created. After traveling for 100 meters, he finally saw Jianshan. At this moment, Jianshan's face was pale, and his eyes were tightly shut. He had already fainted, and the blood he spat out had dyed his golden silk armor red. From now on, this defensive treasure belongs to my Tsar clan. I have contributed greatly in killing Yang Yuqian, and with my position in the clan, the old ancestor will definitely bestow this golden silk armor to me. Zatalos's eyes were filled with greed and joy. He was about to stretch out his hands to take off the golden armor on Jianshan's body. Roar! Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar rang out. The tremendous sound wave rang through the entire world, forming visible sound waves that spread out in all directions. With a roar, the entire mountain range shook violently. Thick cracks appeared on the mountain range that had existed for tens of thousands of years. They spread out in all directions like a spiderweb. Soon, they covered the entire mountain range, causing many mountains to collapse and collapse. The ground shook violently. As the terrifying sound wave passed by, thick cracks immediately appeared in the ground, intersecting with one another. The countless weeds and trees that grew on the ground were reduced to dust, which drifted into the air. Even the hazy white sky was greatly affected. The roar was no weaker than a full-powered attack from Saint Ruler. With it, mountains collapsed and the sky shook, as if the world was about to be destroyed. Zatalos, who was about to take off Jianshan's golden silk armor, suddenly shuddered. Afterward, the light in his eyes rapidly faded away, causing them to become empty and lifeless. Afterward, he seemed to have lost all his strength, collapsing on the ground. The roar had dispersed Zatalos's soul, wiping out his soul. The roar seemed to be targeted. All the radiant Saint Masters surrounding Jianshan trembled before their eyes immediately became lifeless. They all collapsed on the ground, following in Zatalos's footsteps. Their souls had been dispersed by the roar, wiping out their souls. Even the power of the Saint artifact was unable to stop it. Kara Livy, who was assisting Jianshan, and the spectating Radiant Saint Masters were greatly affected as well. All of them became stunned at that moment. They stopped thinking. The powerful shockwave from the roar had deeply shaken their souls, causing them to feel fear from the depths of their souls. Suddenly, a miserable cry rang out from afar. Yin Tian cried out painfully as he flew over on a white cloud. He clutched his head tightly with both hands as his face was filled with pain. Afterward, he directly fell out of the sky, landing heavily on the ground. A few of his bones were broken. As Yin Tian was rather far away, when a whistling sound reached his ears, the killing intent had already weakened greatly. It only gave him a splitting headache, as if his soul had been sliced by a knife. If he had been in Zatalos' position and was very close to the whistling sound, his soul would have been shattered into pieces like Zatalos, and his body and soul would have been destroyed. In the cave that Jianshan was guarding, a huge white tiger that was 3 meters tall and 10 meters long slowly walked out with its chest puffed out like a king. On the back of the white tiger was a pair of tightly folded snow-white wings. It was filled with nobility and holiness, symbolizing that the white tiger was different from the rest. The white tiger slowly walked out of the cave. Its gaze locked onto Yun Tian, who was still several kilometers away. Its eyes were filled with intense, killing intent. Yun Tian endured the splitting headache and struggled to his feet. He stared blankly at the huge, white tiger standing at the cave entrance and immediately understood where the world-shaking roar had come from. He said with a trembling voice, a primordial beast. Sensing the intense killing intent in the white tiger's eyes, Yun Tian's heart trembled. When he thought of the might of the white tiger's roar, he was immediately frightened out of his wits. Without any hesitation, he immediately took out an ancient jade pendant and shouted, "I forfeit." As soon as Yun Tian finished speaking, a huge pillar of white light descended from the sky and swept Yun Tian away. Just as Yun Tian's figure disappeared, the huge white tiger, which was originally several kilometers away, strangely appeared where he had just been standing. Its sharp claws carried a powerful force that seemed to be able to tear through space, but it hit nothing. Roar! The giant white tiger let out a world-shaking roar at the sky. There was an uncontrollable fury in its voice. Immediately, it leaped high into the air and chased after Yun Tian, who had been swept into the sky by the white light. It would not give up. Sigh! At this moment, a helpless sigh rang out in the sky. Soon after, a huge palm rapidly formed, blotting out the sun. It was like a wall that separated the tiger from Yun Tian. The white tiger viciously slammed into the palm that was blocking its path. Immediately, a thunderous sound rang out. The powerful recoil caused the white tiger's huge body to bounce back. However, the huge palm did not move at all. It was completely undamaged. Roar! The white tiger let out a long roar. Its eyes blazed with ferocity as it actually charged at the huge palm again. However, Yun Tian had already vanished from the artifact space after being stopped by the white light. Afterwards, the huge palm that had stopped the white tiger turned into nothingness again, causing the white tiger to miss. The white tiger let out an unwilling roar. Its voice was earth-shaking as it radiated with the pressure of a divine beast. It made all the trapped Class 7 and 8 demons in the artifact space become stern. There was even deep fear in the eyes of a few Class 7 magical beasts. A while later, the white tiger gradually calmed down. With a flash, it arrived before the hole that Jianshan had created with unbelievable speed. Its huge body rapidly shrank before entering the hole in a flash. Very soon, the white tiger emerged from the hole with the unconscious Jianshan in its mouth. It glanced at the remaining Radiant Saint Masters threateningly before disappearing into the hole that Jianshan had created. All the Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters present trembled inside from the white tiger's glare. They could not help but take a few steps back as their faces all paled. Although the white tiger had only just broken through to Class 6, its tremendous presence even made the Radiant Saint Masters suspect that they were facing a Class 7 magical beast. When everyone gradually calmed down, they immediately discovered that those who had fallen to the ground were all dead. Immediately, all of them were shocked speechless. Immediately, the fear in their hearts towards the huge white tiger became even more intense. Jianshan lay unconscious on the ground in the hole. The white tiger, which had shrunk to a meter in size, paced around Jianshan anxiously. It would growl heavily from time to time, as if it was worried for Jianshan. At this moment, the little white tiger's eyes narrowed. It suddenly turned its head and saw a middle-aged man in a long white robe appear there silently. The white tiger's gaze immediately sharpened as it stared at the middle-aged man. Its eyes were filled with heavy hostility. Somehow, it seemed to know that the person who had blocked it with a huge hand was the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man gently sighed. His face was filled with bitterness. He looked at the white tiger and said, "Winged tiger, the Venerable One is very heavily injured. Even though the Venerable One's body is very tough, he'll need 2 or 3 days at the very least to recover. If you have my assistance, the Venerable One will wake up very quickly." As he said that, the middle-aged man extended a finger and a strand of Radiant Saint Force origin energy shot out from his hand, directly entering Jinshin's body. The strand of radiant Saint Force origin energy belonged to the Saint artifact. It belonged to an owner, so it could only be used to heal others. It cannot be absorbed by others for their own use. As the strand of origin energy entered Jinshin's body, Jinshin's wounds immediately healed at an unbelievable rate. In just a few seconds, his shattered organs had completely recovered. Then, in another few seconds, Jinshin's shattered bones slowly regrew as well. In just a few seconds, Jinshin had completely recovered. The radiant Saint Force origin energy was so powerful that it was incomparable to radiant Saint Force. As his wounds healed, the unconscious Jinshin slowly woke up. The moment he opened his eyes, he immediately discovered the human-sized white tiger and the middle-aged man in the form of the artifact spirit. The artifact spirit immediately knelt down on one knee and said sincerely, "Please forgive me, Venerable One. Due to the ancient oath I made with Ajin, I had to ensure the safety of every single participant of the Radiant Saint Master Union, which was why I stopped the winged tiger from chasing that participant. The winged tiger's roar earlier had already wiped out several dozen participants. I've already broken the ancient oath once, so I can't break it a second time. Once I break the ancient oath 3 times, my mind will disperse." Chapter 777. Jinshin did not mind the fact that the artifact spirit had helped the participants escape because he did not feel like the artifact spirit had done anything wrong. After all, protecting the safety of the participants was the artifact spirit's responsibility. Radiant Saint Masters were not as common as fighters, let alone Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters. They could not afford to lose them. Jinshin stood up and carefully checked his body. When he discovered that he had completely recovered from his wounds, he immediately became slightly shocked. Although he had fainted earlier, he knew exactly how severe his wounds were. Even with the terrifying regeneration of his chaotic body, it would take him a day or 2 to completely heal. However, he could clearly feel that he had completely recovered in less than 15 minutes. Jinshin found this rather unbelievable. Even Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters would not be able to heal so quickly. After all, he had just withstood an attack from the Holy Emperor. If it were not for his chaotic body and his extremely tough body, any other Saint ruler would have struggled to survive the attack. Even if they managed to survive, they would probably need several years or even several decades to heal. At this moment, Jinshin vaguely remembered that he seemed to have sensed an extremely pure Radiant Saint Master energy move through his body when he fainted. His eyes could not help but light up as he looked at the middle-aged man and said, "Artifact Spirit, were my wounds healed by the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force?" The Artifact Spirit nodded, "Yes, Venerable One. That was the origin energy of the Saint Artifact. It's a pity that I've already refined it, so I can't let others use it. Otherwise, I could have helped the Venerable One break through to Class 7. Although the Artifact Spirit was like a god in the artifact space, the Artifact Spirit was still filled with fear and respect for Jinshin. Even though Jinshin was still very weak in his eyes, he did not dare to show any disrespect. This was because the Artifact Spirit had been frightened out of his wits by the twin swords. How could someone who could be referred to as Master by the Sword Spirits be ordinary? A sliver of disappointment appeared in Jinshin's eyes. After thanking the Artifact Spirit left. After the Artifact Spirit left, only Jinshin and the White Tiger were left in the cave. Jinshin stood up from the ground and looked at the White Tiger that was as tall as a person with a complicated gaze. His eyes were filled with joy as he sighed. "Xiao Bai, you're much more powerful than before." The White Tiger that was as tall as a person was indeed much more powerful than before. It was filled with the aura of a king. It was like a king who had been in a high position for a long time, commanding thousands of troops and being respected by the world. "Woo-woo." Xiao Bai let out a low growl. The huge tiger head rubbed against Jinshin's face intimately. Even though it had become a Class 6 magical beast now, Jinshin's position in its heart had not weakened at all. It was filled with dependence. Right now, Xiao Bai seemed like a docile little lamb. It was completely different from the powerful, vicious beast that had dispersed the souls of several dozen Radiant Saint Masters with a roar and chased after Yun Tian and the artifact spirit. Jianshan looked at the white tiger with a gaze filled with gentleness. Although the white tiger had not been with him for a long time, only a few years, Jianshan had basically watched the white tiger grow from a cub that could not even walk to its current state. The relationship between them was as deep as that between father and son. It was definitely not as simple as people thought. Jianshan stroked Xiao Bai's furry head, then took out a clean white robe from his space ring and put on himself. He said, "Xiao Bai, we haven't finished our mission here yet. Let's go out and deal with the proper business first. We can't just let others take advantage of our achievements." As he said that, Jianshan had already put on his clothes and walked out. Whoa! The white tiger's huge body rapidly shrank, returning to the size of a kitten very soon. It leapt up and landed firmly on Jianshan's shoulder, lying there lazily. Jianshan smiled and stroked the white tiger's fist-sized head intimately. He had already made his way out of the cave. Less than 15 minutes had passed since Jianshan was injured. The Radiant Saint Masters who had been watching the show had yet to disperse. Whether it was Zadalo's attack from the Holy Emperor or the beast's roar that dispersed the souls of several dozen people, they were all extremely shocked. When Jianshan emerged from the cave and appeared before everyone, all the Radiant Saint Masters gathered outside shuddered. They subconsciously retreated a certain distance away and looked at Jianshan like they were looking at a monster. Disbelief filled their faces. No one dared to believe that not only had Jianshan survived the Holy Emperor's attack, but he had even recovered so quickly. He seemed completely fine, as if the Holy Emperor's attack had not injured him at all. What's going on? Yang Yutian was clearly heavily injured earlier. Even if he didn't die, he definitely wouldn't be in a good condition. How has he recovered so quickly? At this moment, all the Radiant Saint Masters had the same thought. Even Kara Livy and Quan Yu Kai, who had hurried over from afar, were stunned by this scene. However, most of their gazes were focused on the white tiger that had shrunk to the size of a kitten on Jianshan's shoulder. In particular, when they saw how docile the white tiger was on Jianshan's shoulder, all the Radiant Saint Masters present could not help but feel a sliver of jealousy and envy. They all sighed at how lucky Yang Yutian was. He had actually developed such a deep relationship with a beast from ancient times. Jianshan glanced around, and very soon, his gaze locked onto the white specks of light floating in the air. These white specks of light were the battle records of the Tsar family and the Radiant Saint Masters who had surrounded Jianshan. They had been shaken to death by the roar of the white tiger, so naturally, the battle records they had collected had exploded. There were over 1,000 of them. These battle records floated in the air, but no one dared to collect them. Glancing past the battle records floating in the air, Jianshan revealed a sliver of excitement. He did not hold back at all and immediately collected all the battle records. Very soon, the battle records on Jianshan's body had reached 700. This number was enough for him to enter the top 10. Jianshan stopped collecting battle records, and looking at a certain spot in the crowd, he said, "Quan Yu Kai." Quan Yotsai's body trembled when his name was called, but he immediately walked out of the crowd with a charming smile. He first glanced at the white tiger on Jianshan's shoulder with a fearful expression. Then he said to Jianshan with a playful smile, "Little brother Yang Yutian, I never thought that you would actually remember Quan Yu Kai. This really makes Quan Yu Kai overwhelmed by your favor. However, if little brother Yang Yutian has any use for Quan Yu Kai, then Quan Yu Kai will definitely do his best." With regards to Quan Yu Kai, although Jianshan did not have a deep friendship with him, Quan Yu Kai had just risked offending Yun Tian and the Tsar family to help him fend off a powerful enemy. This was something that Jianshan would never forget, even if he knew that Quan Yotsai's purpose in helping him was to obtain the 3 great divine techniques. "Quan Yu Kai, I have collected enough battle records. Take them. It should be enough for you to enter the top 10. Jianshan said calmly. Quan Yu Kai was overjoyed. After thanking him, he immediately began to collect the remaining battle records in a fluster. As for the Radiant Saint Masters who had come with Quan Yu Kai, their faces were filled with regret. If they had known that they would obtain such great benefits, they definitely would not have chosen to stand aside and watch. Yang Yuqian, what about your injuries? Kara Livy stared at Jianshun in surprise and doubt. Even though this scene was right before her eyes, she still found it hard to believe that Jianshun had actually recovered from the injuries he had suffered from the Holy Emperor's attack so quickly. Jianshun clasped his hands towards Kara Livy and said, "Thank you for your concern, Miss Kara Livy. My injuries have already completely recovered. I will not forget the kindness you have shown me earlier, Miss Kara Livy." Afterwards, all the Radiant Saint Masters gathered there dispersed. Jianshun did not leave. Instead, he returned to the cave and quietly waited for the artifact space to close. He had already collected enough battle records. Entering the top 10 was already set in stone, so there was no need for him to compete with others for battle records. Quan Yukai did not leave either. Instead, he remained by Jianshun's side shamelessly. However, he had become Jianshun's laborer. Under Jianshun's orders, Quan Yukai buried the Radiant Saint Masters who had been killed by the White Tiger's roar. Their space rings all ended up in Jianshun's hands. Kara Livy did not stay with Jianshun. She continued to hunt down the other participants in the artifact space, collecting their battle skills. However, after this matter, Jianshun's name had become even more resounding in the ears of the Radiant Saint Masters. Naturally, everyone knew about the matter of the exotic beast. It could be expected that when the artifact space closed and all the participants were teleported out, the news of Yang Yuqian possessing the exotic beast would spread throughout the Holy Emperor's empire in an extremely short amount of time. It might even spread to even further places. However, this was not something Jianshun could stop. He knew that the winged tiger's true identity would not be exposed so easily. There were extremely few people who knew about the winged tiger. However, with the halo of the exotic beast enveloping the white tiger, it might not be a bad thing for the white tiger. It could better conceal its true identity. What Jianshun was truly worried about was how he would deal with the Tsar family after leaving the artifact space. Chapter 778. Quite a few people had already gathered around the huge square of the Union. Ever since the artifact space had opened 10 days ago, these people had been waiting there. Most of them belonged to the clans of the participants, and there were even a few seniors of the participants. White light flickered in the square from time to time as Class 6. Radiant Saint Masters participating in the competition were transported out at almost every moment. Without exception, they were all pale-faced and covered in blood. Clearly, they had suffered a great battle in the artifact space. In the crowd at the edge of the square, a middle-aged man stood behind an old man with a sunken face. He stared at the white light that flickered in the square from time to time. "Bastard, why hasn't that person come out yet? Did he slip away from the young Miss hands?" The middle-aged man cursed in a low voice. He was extremely furious. He was a member of the Kara clan, the one who had been struck in the chest by Jianshun and sent out by the power of the Saint Artifact. "Kara, I wonder if the person you speak of has a snow-white cub with him." At this moment, the old man standing in front of the middle-aged man spoke. The old man stared at the middle-aged man with shining eyes. He was extremely stern. Before the old man, Kara immediately became respectful. He said, "Elder Liu, that person is alone. He doesn't have any magical beasts with him." With that, Elder Liu let out a slight sigh of relief. He said, "Then let's wait here. Old man also wants to see the young man who can kill you in a single move." Afterwards, the two of them waited there quietly. Time slowly passed. Suddenly, a few more white lights flickered in the square. 3 Radiant Saint Masters appeared in the square. Their faces were pale, and the clothes on their chests had already been dyed red with blood. However, their wounds had already healed with the help of the Saint Artifact. They're from the Tsar clan. I never thought that someone would actually kill someone from the Tsar clan. There aren't many people in the Holy Emperor's empire who dare to offend the Tsar clan. Don't tell me that the Tsar clan is fighting with the other 2 clans in the artifact space. As soon as the 3 of them came out, they were recognized by many people in the field and immediately let out a series of exclamations. A few old men in tight robes hurried over to the 3 Radiant Saint Masters. One of them said with a sunken face, "What's going on?" How did someone manage to kill you with your strength? Did you really end up fighting with the people from the other two clans? Elder Hong, we encountered Yang Yutian. We were killed by Yang Yutian. A radiant Saint Master who emerged from the artifact space said with a trembling voice. His eyes were filled with fear. Yang Yuqian had still managed to kill the three of them despite being surrounded by so many people, so he was shocked by Yang Yuqian's strength. This was because he knew that if they were not in the artifact space, the three of them would have already died at the hands of Yang Yuqian. Although the three radiant Saint Masters did not speak loudly, none of the people in the field were weak. They all heard the words of the radiant Saint Master from the Tsar clan clearly. This caused many people to be slightly surprised. They were deeply impressed by Yang Yutian's courage. Daring to go against the Tsar clan was not something an ordinary person could do. What about Zadalos and the others? Don't tell me that they can't even defeat Yang Yutian with so many of them? Elder Hong's voice was filled with endless anger. Elder Hong, this Yang Yutian is just too strong. Even when we worked together with the people from the 8 clans to deal with Yang Yutian, we still couldn't defeat him. A radiant Saint Master said, "A bunch of trash." Elder Hong was clearly very angry. At this moment, there were 3 more flashes of white light in the field. Another 3 participants were sent out of the artifact space. When Elder Hong saw the 3 people who had been sent out of the artifact space, his gloomy face became even uglier. This was because the 3 of them belonged to the Tsar clan. "Greetings, Elder Hong." The 3 radiant Saint Masters immediately clasped their hands and bowed to Elder Hong politely when they saw him. "Could it be that you were also killed by Yang Yuqian?" Elder Hong said coldly. Hearing that, the 3 radiant Saint Masters looked at each other before nodding bitterly. Elder Hong's gaze landed on one of them. He said with a deep voice, "Cheng Jian, your strength is close to the top 10 experts. I never thought that even you wouldn't be Yang Yutian's opponent. What's the situation in the artifact space? What kind of helpers does Yang Yutian have?" Elder Hong, this Yang Yutian is very strong. He can fight over 20 of us by himself. The situation in there right now isn't very optimistic. Moreover, a beast of antiquity has appeared in the artifact space, said Cheng Jian. What? A beast of antiquity? Elder Hong was slightly surprised. A gleam of light immediately shot out of his eyes. It was not just him. When they heard the words beast of antiquity, a gleam of light flashed through the eyes of many people in the surroundings. Elder Hong, this beast of antiquity has already reached class 6, and Yang Yuqian is its master. An old man beside Cheng Jian said. His eyes were filled with undisguised envy. A class 6 beast of antiquity that has already accepted a master. Even with Elder Hong's composure, he could not help but gasp when he heard that. A sliver of extremely well-hidden envy appeared in his eyes. The people in the surroundings were extremely shocked. Very soon, the matter of Yang Yuqian possessing a class 6 beast of antiquity rapidly spread, causing countless people to become envious. Beasts of antiquity were extremely rare magical beasts on the Tian Yuan continent. They possessed a natural advantage, and their battle prowess was extremely great. Without a doubt, they were at the same level of cultivation. Even monarch beasts could not compare to beasts of antiquity. However, a beast of antiquity that had just reached class 6 was no weaker than a 5th cycle Heaven Saint Master. It could even put up a fight against a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master. For example, the golden-striped silver serpent, Nubes, was able to fight a 6th heavenly layer Saint Ruler to a stalemate with his strength at the 3rd heavenly layer just by relying on his natural advantage. This was why beasts of antiquity were so terrifying. Afterward, there were 3 more flashes of white light. This time, the people who came out were all from the 8 great clans of the City of God. Seeing this, Elder Hong's face paled. He was so angry that he could not say anything. He finally understood that Yang Yuqian was purposefully going against the Tsar family. All the people who were sent out were either from the Tsar family or from affiliated clans of the Tsar family. Soon after, there was another flash of white light. A pale-faced participant was sent out by the power of the Saint Artifact. The participant was in extremely bad shape. He fell heavily to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Clearly, he was heavily injured. Elder Hong focused his gaze. When he saw that person's appearance, his ashen face finally softened a little. A cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he said, "Yin Tian, I didn't expect that you would be killed as well." Yin Tian was pale-faced. His eyes were filled with intense fear. He immediately climbed to his feet and ran toward the castle of the Union in fear. "Yin Tian, isn't that Yin Tian? I never thought that he'd come out as well." Yin Tian is the second disciple of the president of the Union. His talent is extremely great, and his cultivation of radiant arts has reached an extremely profound level. He's someone on the Radiant Saint Master rankings. I never thought that he'd be killed as well. Looking at Yin Tian's horrible and panicked appearance, he seems to have been frightened. Just what did he come across in the artifact space? Yin Tian's appearance caused the people in the surroundings to discuss once again. At this moment, a streak of white light shot out of the castle. In the blink of an eye, it arrived before Yin Tian. It was the president of the Union. "Yin Tian, what happened? Why are you so panicked?" The president frowned and growled. He was extremely displeased with Yin Tian's reaction. "Master, it's Yang Yuqian's tea, ancient beast," Yin Tian said with a trembling voice. Yin Tian's voice trembled. Although the little white tiger's roar had been weakened by the distance, and it hadn't destroyed Yin Tian's body and soul, it had shaken Yin Tian's courage. He couldn't even speak clearly. The president frowned slightly and murmured, "A beast of ancient times. Is it the little beast that always slept on Yang Yuqian's shoulder?" The president sank into his thoughts for a while before glancing at the people from the Tsar family in the center of the square. He said, "Yin Tian, you can go back." The president did not mention anything about what had happened between Yin Tian and Jianshan. How could he not be able to tell with his life experience? "Yang Yuqian, you really surprise me more and more. Not only did you kill the people from the Tsar family, but you even have a Class 6 beast of ancient times by your side. This has indeed exceeded my expectations. I just wonder if you can successfully reach the 7th class with your talent." The president murmured in a voice that only he could hear. Afterward, he frowned slightly and sighed. "However, the Tsar family is a problem." At the same time, outside the city of God, 5 figures streaked across the sky like bolts of lightning. They quickly approached the city of God from afar. "We're about to reach the city of God. This is one of the 7 great capital cities of the Tian-Yuan continent. It's guarded by the ancient Tsar family. The Tsar family has the Holy Emperor. They're even more powerful than the Tiger King. We have to be careful. We can't provoke any of the local organizations." "Old Man Situ, don't worry. I know what to do. We can't act as recklessly as before in the city of God. Let's keep a low profile and enter the city of God on foot." The 5 of them stopped 20 kilometers away from the city of God. Then, they began to walk towards the city of God. Even though they were using their feet, they were not slow at all. With each step, they crossed over 100 meters. The 5 of them successfully entered the city of God. They immediately found an inn to stay in. At this moment, the 5 of them were gathered in a room. They sat in a circle, and the entire room was covered by a transparent barrier. "Old Man Situ, can you sense Jinshan's presence? Is he still in the city of God?" An old man sternly asked. Old Man Situ immediately closed his eyes. He only opened them after 10 minutes. He shook his head. "I've already confirmed that Jianshan is in the city of God through the power of my bloodline. However, I can't find his location right now." Old Man Sima frowned. "This won't do. We don't have much time left. Although we've used a secret technique to hide our presence, we can't hide it from the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect. They'll catch up soon. We have to find Jianshan as soon as possible and complete the mission the Tiger King gave us. Don't worry. This is the city of God, and the dense, baleful Yin-Chi of the 4 protectors can't be hidden no matter what. I can guarantee that as soon as the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect come to the city of God, they'll immediately alert the experts in the city of God. Even the ancestors of the Tsar family will be alerted," an old man sneered. "That's right, but we still have to move faster. Otherwise, something unexpected might happen. We have to find Jianshin as soon as possible. How about this? The 5 of us will go out and gather information together. Let's see if we can find any clues about Jianshin. It's a pity that we don't know what Jianshin looks like. Otherwise, we'll be able to find him easily if we draw some pictures. Chapter 779. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. During these 3 days, many more participants failed and were sent out by the power of the Saint Artifact. At the same time, they brought out the latest news from the artifact space, which shocked everyone in the City of God. The second disciple of the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, Yin Tian, had gathered over 30 Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters from over 20 clans of various sizes in the City of God. He had teamed up with the Czar family and the 8 great clans to deal with Yang Yutian, engaging in an intense battle with Yang Yutian. Afterwards, the young lady of the Kara family, Kara Livy, led her family to openly oppose the Czar family, saving Yang Yutian from danger and buying precious time for Yang Yutian to successfully use one of the 3 great techniques, Ruling Sword. He instantly killed several Radiant Saint Masters and turned the situation around. Just when Yang Yutian was about to use Ruling Sword to turn the situation around, Zatalos used the Holy Emperor's attack to heavily injure Jianshin. Afterwards, he tried to take away Jianshin's defensive treasure. As a result, over 40 Radiant Saint Masters, including the people who had surrounded Jianshin, were all killed by a sudden roar. They died in the artifact space, unable to be stopped by the power of the Saint Artifact. Yin Tian was so frightened that he directly gave up and fled the artifact space. Afterwards, he was hunted down by Yang Yutian's beast, which was stopped by the power of the Saint Artifact. After resisting the power of the Saint Artifact for a while, the beast was defeated in the end, allowing Yin Tian to escape successfully. Not long after, Yang Yutian, who had been killed by the Holy Emperor's attack, actually appeared before everyone unscathed, shocking everyone. The various shocking news spread like a storm. Not only did it shock all the participants, even the 3 great clans of the Holy Emperor's Kingdom and the Radiant Saint Master Union were shocked. Zatalos actually possessed the power of the Holy Emperor's attack, left behind by the ancestor of the Tsar family. The might of the beast's roar had shattered the souls of over 40 Radiant Saint Masters surrounding Zatalos, destroying their souls. Even the power of the Saint Artifact was unable to stop it. However, Yang Yutian was actually unscathed after receiving the Holy Emperor's attack. He was completely unscathed. When this shocking news fell into everyone's ears, it was like a bolt of lightning had struck everyone's head, causing everyone to be stunned for a while. Zatalos is actually dead. He died in the artifact space. My Tsar family, including all the participants from the 8 great clans who surrounded Jianshin, are all dead. They were all killed by the beast's roar. Just what is the strength of this beast? It can kill a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master with a single roar. Even Saint Rulers can't do that. And Yang Yutian, he actually survived the ancestor's attack. How is this possible? Elder Hong from his Tsar family was no longer furious. Instead, he was shocked. He was completely stunned by the news. He found it very difficult to believe that it was true. On the other side of the plaza, Elder Hong from the Tsar family also smiled. On the other side of the square, Elder Liu of the Kara clan also learned about what had happened in the artifact space. After recovering from his shock, he revealed a gratified smile and murmured, "The young miss has made a wise choice. This Yang Yutian is much stronger than I imagined. I never thought that the young beast beside him would actually be an ancient beast, and a Class 6 one at that. It's unbelievable. However, this Yang Yutian seems to have caused some trouble in the artifact space, but with the Radiant Saint Master Union behind him, Yang Yutian shouldn't encounter any major problems. I believe that the Tsar clan won't dare to push the Radiant Saint Master Union too hard. Otherwise, once the Radiant Saint Master Union and our 2 clans work together, the Tsar clan will basically be courting death. This Tsar family is really muddle-headed. He gave up such a good opportunity to rope in Yang Yutian and chose to just stand by and watch. He missed such a rare opportunity. It's not like you don't know about the matters between our Tsar family and the Tsar family. There will be a battle sooner or later. Don't tell me he's afraid of provoking the Tsar family. He can't do anything right. An old man from the Tsar family shook his head and sighed. His face was filled with regret. In the castle of the Radiant Saint Master Union, the president and the Grand Elder were currently sitting together. Both of them were frowning. Their faces were stern. I never thought that the cub by Yang Yutian's side would actually be an ancient beast. This is troublesome. The Tsar family and the 8 families of the City of God have been killed in the artifact space. Even their souls have dissipated. Even if we have the power of resurrection, we can't revive them. The Tsar family will definitely not let this matter go. The Grand Elder rubbed his temples as he spoke in distress. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union was calm. He chuckled and said, "This Yang Yutian's performance is really making me more and more satisfied. Although I already guessed that the Tsar family and Yuntian's disciple would definitely make things difficult for Yang Yutian in the artifact space and prevent him from getting into the top 10, I never thought that the Tsar family's determination to eliminate Yang Yutian would be so strong. The ancestor of the Tsar family even went as far as to leave behind a strike for his clansmen to bring into the artifact space. Fortunately, the Tsar family's scheme didn't succeed. Otherwise, I'm afraid that Yang Yutian would have lost this opportunity. As for the people of the Tsar family who were killed, they even brought in the power of the Holy Emperor. They only have themselves to blame for this outcome. They can't blame anyone else. In short, this Yang Yutian is the future pillar of our Radiant Saint Master Union. I definitely won't let him fall. If the Tsar family really wants to be overbearing, then I only need to make them pay the price." Towards the end, the president's eyes revealed a sliver of sharpness. The Grand Elder pondered for a while and said, "Something unpleasant seems to have happened between Yuntian and Yang Yutian. How do you plan on dealing with this matter?" The Tian-Yuan continent has always been a world where the strong are respected. Without strength, you will only become food in the mouth of others. As for the matter between the two of them, as long as it doesn't cause too much of a stir in the Union, I won't interfere. Let them settle it themselves. Moreover, I can use Yuntian to let Yang Yutian understand the viciousness of the human heart. Although this Yang Yutian's talent is extraordinary, he is still only 24 years old. He has far too little experience. The president said. At this moment, on a street in the City of God, 5 old men in ordinary clothes were walking on the street. Their faces were filled with anxiety. I really don't know where this Jianshin has run off to. We've been here for so long, but we haven't heard any news about him. An old man shook his head and sighed. Old man Situ, continue to use your great prophecy technique to search. See if you can find Jianshin's location. Old man Ma Tong said. Old man Situ shook his head and said, I've already tried. There's only the bloodline presence of Jianshin in the City of God. There's still no trace of him. It seems like he left the City of God 10 days ago. But that's impossible because my great prophecy technique predicted that he's in the City of God. He must be hiding in a place that can avoid the detection of my great prophecy technique. Recently, the City of God seems to be holding a competition for Radiant Saint Masters. I heard it's taking place in an independent space within the Saint Artifact. Do you think Jianshin is hiding there? The old man beside Ma Tong said. Impossible. I don't know much about the Radiant Saint Master Union, but I do know some basic information. The artifact space is for Radiant Saint Masters. Fighters can't enter at all. Do you still think Jianshin is a Radiant Saint Master? Ma Tong firmly rejected this speculation. That makes sense. Jianshin is clearly a fighter, and he's even participated in the mercenary tournament. How can he be a Radiant Saint Master? It's impossible for him to be in the artifact space. After all, Radiant Saint Masters and fighters don't exist at the same time. Old Man Situ added, rejecting the idea that Jianshin was in the artifact space. Ma Ting thought about it and said, but recently, the news about Yang Yutian has been spreading like wildfire in the City of God. It said that Yang Yutian has an ancient beast accompanying him. I heard that this ancient beast is a huge white tiger with a strength of rank 6. Although the cub that the Tiger King wants is also a white tiger, its size isn't as huge. Furthermore, it has a pair of wings on its back. However, this ancient beast doesn't have any wings on its back. Otherwise, I would have thought that this ancient beast is the same as the white tiger that the Tiger King wants. But that's impossible. That ancient beast follows Yang Yutian, while we're looking for a cub that follows Jianshin. Old Man Situ said. Suddenly, the bodies of Old Man Situ and the others who were walking on the street trembled violently. Their expressions instantly became incomparably solemn. Oh no, the 4 people from the Bloodsword sect have caught up. Let's hide our presence and get away from here. An old man said nervously. The headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union is filled with experts right now. Let's hide there immediately. The 4 people from the Bloodsword sect won't dare to act too recklessly in the city of God. They'll definitely be interfered with by the Tsar family, Ma Tong said. Without any hesitation, the 4 of them immediately rushed toward the Union. They moved extremely quickly, crossing several hundred meters with each step. At this moment, 4 blood-red streaks of light shot through the sky outside the city of God. They were approaching the city from afar. Wherever they passed by, the temperature in the surroundings would suddenly plummet. Along the way, they would leave behind a dense, baleful force. The 4 blood-red streaks of light stopped outside the city of God, revealing 4 identical middle-aged men in blood-red robes. The 4 middle-aged men frowned as they stared at the huge city below them. A sliver of fear appeared in their eyes. Afterward, one of them called out, "After them!" The 4 of them immediately entered the city of God as a blood-red streak of light. As soon as they entered the city, a gleam of light appeared in the eyes of all the saint rulers on the square of the Union. They suddenly raised their heads and stared into the distance. Many of them became stern. The president and grand elder of the Radiant Saint Master Union both stood up from their chairs in the huge castle of the Union. They stared into the distance in surprise through the window, as well as some sternness. What dense, baleful force! They're from the Bloodsword sect, and they're not weak, the president said with a heavy voice. Chapter 780. The Grand Elder's words were extremely reasonable. The president nodded slightly and said with a sunken face, "It looks like the Tsar family's determination to eliminate Yang Yutian is so great that they don't even care about the consequences. First, they sent Tsar Telos into the artifact space with a single strike from the Holy Emperor. After learning that the Holy Emperor failed to kill Yang Yutian by himself, they actually invited the experts of the Bloodsword sect to come. They really are capable. The Bloodsword sect has disappeared for 1,000 years, and even our Radiant Saint Master Union was unable to find their whereabouts. Instead, they were found by the Tsar family. The baleful force of the Bloodsword sect is extremely powerful. It's impossible to guard against. Once they use it on Yang Yutian's defensive treasures probably won't be able to do anything. Only death awaits him in the end." The Grand Elder's face was very ugly. The Tsar family. The president's eyes became even colder. He basically gritted his teeth as he murmured. With a wave of his hand, the tightly shut window was immediately opened. He flew out on a white cloud. "We have to stop the people of the Bloodsword sect. For the future of our union, nothing can happen to Yang Yutian. President, I'll go with you." The Grand Elder followed closely behind the president. Just after the 2 of them left, another 3 people of various ages flew out of the huge castle. Their bodies seemed to have fused with the space around them, disappearing in a flash. They followed the president and the Grand Elder. Their departure obviously did not escape the attention of the saint rulers gathered around the square, waiting for the participants to emerge. Elder Liu of the Kara clan watched the president and the others leave. He murmured, "The Bloodsword sect that has disappeared for 1,000 years has actually reappeared. Are they planning on leaving the Tian Yuan continent and returning to their former glory? It looks like the Tsar family's determination to eliminate Yang Yutian is extremely intense." As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Liu's body immediately blurred and disappeared in the blink of an eye. He had merged with the space and left with the help of the power of space. After Elder Liu, the saint ruler from the Kaza clan mumbled something before disappearing as well. He had already hurried off in the direction of the baleful force. Afterward, several more saint rulers left the square. They were all people from the other 2 capital cities of the Holy Emperor's empire and a few powerful clans on the Tian Yuan continent. They had only come to escort their own Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters to the competition, so the sudden appearance of the Bloodsword sect obviously piqued their interest. They could not help but want to watch the show. At the same time, the ancestors of the 8 clans in the City of God opened their eyes at the same time. Their gazes seemed to be able to penetrate the various obstructions and see the sky outside. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. This is baleful force. Only one of the 3 assassination organizations, the Bloodsword sect, can control baleful force. Has the Bloodsword sect returned with it? This is baleful force. Are the people who have come our experts from the Bloodsword sect? Why have they come to our City of God? What dense, baleful force? Has the Bloodsword sect returned after disappearing for 1,000 years? Various cries rang out from the ancestors of the 8 clans. All of them immediately left where they cultivated and rushed in the direction of the people from the Bloodsword sect with lightning-like speed. Within the City of God, there was an ancient yet majestic, huge manor. In a quiet room, the great elder of the Tsar family was sitting cross-legged on the bed, cultivating. A mysterious aura lingered in the room, causing the vision in the room to constantly distort, as though the space inside was constantly changing. All of a sudden, the great elder of the Zaha family opened his eyes. Instantly, a surge of lightning shot out from his eyes, piercing through the void in front of him. The space in the room that was constantly distorting suddenly froze. After that, all the furniture placed in the room turned into a pile of ash and scattered on the ground. Even the big bed that the great elder of the Tsar family was sitting on was not spared. The grand elder hovered in the air as he stared into the distance with a sharp gaze. He said in surprise, "Baleful force. They're from the Bloodsword sect. The people of the Bloodsword sect have actually appeared on the Tian Yuan continent, and they've come straight to the City of God. Why have they come?" With that, the grand elder vanished from the room. His whereabouts were unknown. Several thousand meters below the manor of the Tsar clan, there was an extremely huge cavern. A huge palace that flickered with violet light stood there. The remnant power of time had lingered there, so who knew how long it had been there? At this moment, in the main hall of the huge palace, a beautiful middle-aged woman in purple clothes sat cross-legged in the air. Her deep eyes seemed to be able to see through space, clearly seeing the world outside. Suddenly, an old man in white robes silently appeared in front of the middle-aged woman. There was a sliver of complexity in his gaze as he looked at the middle-aged woman. He said calmly, "Kaiyun, the people from the Bloodsword sect have appeared." "I know," the middle-aged woman expressionlessly replied. She did not even glance at the old man. The old man's eyes dimmed when he saw the middle-aged woman's expression. He sighed softly and said, "Kaiyun, it's already been so long. Are you still not willing to forgive your great-grandfather? Your great-grandfather already knows that he was wrong for what happened back then, and he deeply regrets it. Your great-grandfather is already over 5,800 years old. At most, I have less than 400 years left to live. Your great-grandfather doesn't ask for anything else in this life. I just hope that I can obtain your forgiveness before my time is up." The middle-aged woman's face became even colder. Even her gaze sharpened. Vaguely, she radiated with a presence that could destroy the world. The temperature of the entire palace became as cold as an ice cavern at that moment. It radiated with a coldness that seemed to be able to freeze the soul. The entire palace began to tremble gently at that moment. The old man let out a long sigh when he sensed the changes in the palace. The light in his eyes dimmed as he murmured, "Looks like it's impossible for great-grandfather to obtain your forgiveness." "Sigh, how regretful." The old man's face was filled with regret. The old man remained silent for a while before slowly calming himself down. He said softly, "Kaiyun, what do you plan on doing with the matter of the Bloodsword sect? You can leave. I know what I'm doing." The middle-aged woman slowly closed her eyes. She did not even glance at the old man. The old man stared at Kaiyun, who sat in the air with mixed feelings. He sighed inside before leaving the palace in a rather gloomy manner. He could not help but think about something that had happened several thousand years ago. That was the greatest mistake he had ever made in his life. He still regretted it very much even now. If he could turn back time, he would have made a different choice without any hesitation. Unfortunately, he could not change the past. No matter how great his abilities were, he was still powerless. Several thousand meters above the city of God, a large group of people hovered in the air without any assistance. The violent winds caused their clothes to ruffle and their hair to ruffle. This group of people was divided into 3 groups, and one of the groups had the least amount of people. It was a group of 4 middle-aged men who wore blood-red robes and had cold and indifferent expressions on their faces. Their entire bodies were suffused with dense, baleful energy. Before the 4 middle-aged men stood over a dozen people of various ages and various clothes. The president and grand elder of the Radiant Saint Master Union were among them. However, where they stood, they just happened to block the path of the 4 middle-aged men in blood-red robes, preventing them from entering the city of God. On the other side stood 7 people of various ages. Some of them were experts from other cities of the Holy Emperor's Empire, while others were outsiders from outside the Holy Emperor's Empire. They stood in an extremely ingenious position, where they did not offend any of the groups present. They just stood there like outsiders, quietly watching the situation unfold. The president and grand elder looked at the ancestors of the 8 great clans with suspicion. They were filled with doubt. Originally, they thought that the people from the Bloodsword sect had been hired by the Tsar family and the 8 great clans to deal with Yang Yutian at a great cost. However, when they saw the expressions of the people from the 8 great clans, they immediately discarded their guesses. Are you people from the Bloodsword sect? May I ask why you've come to the city of God? The president clasped his hands at the 4 experts from the Bloodsword sect. We are the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect. We have come under the orders of the sect master to hunt down the human traitor. Please do not stop us, the 4 protectors said together. Even though they faced over a dozen saint rulers, they did not show any fear at all. They did not even show any fear. Everyone's eyes suddenly narrowed when they heard the 2 words sect master. Deep fear and dread filled their eyes. May I ask if your sect master is Senior Houston? A saint ruler from the 8 great clans asked carefully. His eyes were filled with deep fear. That's right. The 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect said in unison. Everyone's expressions changed once again. They were familiar with Houston's name. He was one of the few supreme experts on the Tian-Yuan continent. May I ask what Senior Houston is talking about with the human traitor? I hope the 4 protectors can answer my questions. The person who spoke this time was the Grand Elder of the Tsar clan, the old man who had pressured Jianshan in the Tsar clan with his presence. We do not know the details. We are only under the orders of the sect master to hunt them down. I hope you'll not stop us. This time, only one person spoke. His voice was cold and emotionless. The people from the 8 great clans all looked at the Grand Elder. In the city of God, the Tsar clan was the true overlord. They were the true controllers of the city. The 8 great clans were only subsidiary clans of the Tsar clan. The head elder of the Tsar clan had a troubled expression. The arrival of the Bloodsword sect was just too strange. Moreover, they said that they were hunting down human traitors, which confused the head elder. If they were not allowed to enter, they would probably offend the people of the Bloodsword sect. If they were allowed to enter, once a battle between Saint Kings broke out in the City of Gods, it would definitely cause chaos in the peaceful City of Gods. There would be countless deaths and injuries. This was definitely not something the Tsar clan wanted to see. After all, the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect were much stronger than the saint rulers sent by the 2 assassin organizations to kill Yang Yutian. Chapter 781. Just as the Grand Elder did not know what to do, his face suddenly changed. He immediately became respectful and said to the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect, "Protectors, the ancestor of the Tsar family invites you. Please come to my Tsar family for a chat." The 4 protectors were silent for a while. Then, a middle-aged man expressionlessly said, "Lead the way." In the city of God, the 4 of them didn't dare to act unscrupulously. After all, the Sacred Empire wasn't an ordinary small country, especially the Tsar family of the city of God. Their strength was extremely powerful. Even among the ancient families, they could be considered as one of the best. Unless they had no other choice, the four of them didn't want to offend the Tsar family before completing the mission given by the sect leader. If that happened, they would end up with a bad reputation. The four protectors of the Bloodsword sect followed the people of the Tsar family and disappeared into the distant sky. The people gathered there all dispersed as well. However, without exception, all of them had the same strange thought. They were all thinking about the human traitor that the four protectors of the Bloodsword sect had mentioned. Looks like the people of the Bloodsword sect are not here to deal with Yang Yutian. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union let out a sigh of relief. The Grand Elder who stood beside him watched the four of them leave and said, "However, the four of them have already been invited by the Tsar family. Although they are not here to deal with Yang Yutian, I am worried that the situation will change after they leave the Tsar family." The president shook his head and said, "It shouldn't be. With my understanding of the Bloodsword sect, even if they want to kill someone, they will only send someone with similar strength to the target. They will definitely not send someone stronger than the target. Yang Yutian is still a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master. With the pride of the four protectors of the Bloodsword sect, they will definitely not lower themselves to deal with a junior who is only in his 20s. Moreover, the most important thing is that the Bloodsword sect has already gone into seclusion and has yet to return. As long as they do not return, they will not accept any missions." "Then I'm relieved." The Great Elder secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he returned to the Union with the president. Within the Tsar family, the four protectors of the Bloodsword sect sat quietly on chairs in a dazzling hall. The first elder of the Tsar family personally received them to show their respect for the Bloodsword sect. The first elder of the Tsar clan had a supreme position in the clan. His strength was ranked third in the entire Tsar clan, second only to the ancestor. Receiving the four great protectors of the Bloodsword sect was already giving them enough face. At this moment, the hall was empty. Apart from the four protectors of the Bloodsword sect and the Grand Elder of the Zaha clan, there was no one else. At this moment, a powerful barrier suddenly appeared, enveloping the entire hall. The four protectors of the Bloodsword sect sat there calmly. They did not panic at all, but their hearts were filled with caution. I wonder if the sect master of the Bloodsword sect, Houston, is well. "Old man, Zarmi Luo, please send the old man's regards to Sect Master Houston when you return." An old voice rang out in the hall, but there was no one there. "I will pass on Senior's words to the Sect Master." One of the protectors clasped his hands and said emotionlessly, "Protectors, may I ask why you've come to the City of God?" The old voice asked again. "We've come under the Sect Master's orders to hunt down human traitors," said the protector. The old voice fell silent for a while before continuing. "Our Tsar family will not interfere with your actions in the City of God, but I hope we can make a deal." The energy of the world in the hall began to pulse. A while later, a painting completely condensed from the energy of the world appeared before the four protectors. The moment the four protectors saw the painting, their eyes suddenly narrowed, but they quickly returned to normal. This person is called Yang Yutian. He's a very talented Radiant Saint Master. His existence has already hindered the development of our Tsar family. Old man hopes that you can get rid of Yang Yutian while you're at it. Our Tsar family will definitely give you something that will satisfy you, said the old voice. Senior, we won't accept this mission. One of the protectors rejected the Tsar family ancestors' offer without any hesitation. He did not even have the time to think about it. Protectors, as long as you complete the mission, our Tsar family will definitely pay you handsomely. We won't let you suffer a loss, said the old voice again. Senior, our mission is to hunt down human traitors under the sect master's orders. We won't accept any missions. Moreover, our Tsar family hasn't returned yet. If Senior wants us to kill this person called Yang Yutian, then Senior can only look for our sect master, said the protector. If the four of you can make this deal with the old man can help you find those traitors. With the help of the old man, it will be easier for you to complete the mission, said the old voice. There was a hint of anxiousness in it. Although he was a holy emperor expert, his Tsar family could not openly make a move against Yang Yutian due to some reasons. He could only look for someone else. The 4 protectors of the Tsar family stood up at the same time. One of them said, "Senior, if there's nothing else, then the 4 of us will take our leave first." With that, the 4 of them left the hall. Great Elder immediately arranged for people to activate the sky-covering formation of the city of God and conceal the aura of everyone in the city. Since the 4 protectors of the Tsar family refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then the old man will definitely not let them complete the mission so easily. Hearing that, the Great Elder's expression slightly changed. He said with some worry, "Old Ancestor, wouldn't this offend the Tsar family? The sky-covering formation is one of the great protective formations of our city of God. Our Tsar family is the owner of the city of God. Could it be that there's something wrong with activating the formation?" The old voice was somewhat gloomy. "Yes, Old Ancestor. I'll immediately arrange for people to activate the sky-covering formation." The 4 protectors of the Tsar family left the Tsar family and walked side by side on the streets. Those 5 old bastards are too good at hiding their auras. Finding them truly is not an easy task. Moreover, there are too many people in the city of God. Their auras are all over the place. Finding their exact location in this sea of people is even more difficult, said one of the protectors expressionlessly. "I can only sense that the 5 traitors are in this city. I can't find their exact location. We can't keep going like this. The 4 of us should immediately find a quiet place and use our secret techniques to find their whereabouts. We have to complete the sect master's mission as quickly as possible. We can't delay it any longer." The 4 protectors of the Tsar family immediately went to a quiet place and sat down in a circle. Before them, a blood-red spike floated. The 4 tips touched each other, forming a cross that slowly rotated. Suddenly, the 4 protectors spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time and yelled, "Blood God leads the way." The blood of the 4 people quickly condensed into one in the air before shooting off into the distance as a streak of blood-red light. "Follow them," one of the protectors called out, and the 4 of them chased after the streak of blood-red light. However, at this moment, the sky above the city of God suddenly changed. The gentle energy of the world became violent at that moment as well, surprising all the experts in the city. They all raised their heads to look at the sky. In particular, the people of the Kara family and the Kaza family had already gathered together to prevent any sudden attacks from the Tsar family. This is the sky-covering formation that can conceal auras. Within the radiant Saint Master Union's castle, the president in white robes stood before the window. He stared at the sky sternly and murmured, "The Tsar family has suddenly activated the heaven-encompassing formation. What do they want? Is it because of the matter of the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect? Or is it because of the Kara and Kaza clans?" At the same time, the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect stopped at the same time. A sliver of anger finally appeared on their cold faces, and their gazes became extremely sharp at that moment. This is the sky-covering formation of the city of God. It can conceal all auras. For the Tsar family to activate the sky-covering formation at this moment, they're clearly obstructing us from completing the mission given by the sect master. A protector of the Bloodsword sect said with a deep voice. A thick, killing intent radiated from him. "The Tsar family is purposely going against our Bloodsword sect. Once we return, I will definitely report this matter to the sect master and ask him to make a decision." The second protector said with a deep voice. There was unconcealable anger in his heart. "Let's not talk about this for now. Let's think of a way to find the 5 of them. If we don't complete the mission now, what face do we have to report to the sect master? The blood god leads the way has already lost its effect. The city of God is so big, and their auras are concealed by the sky-covering formation. How are we going to find them? Let's fly in the direction of the blood god leads the way. Perhaps we can find them that way." In the blink of an eye, a total of 15 days had passed since the opening of the Saint artifact. Today was the day that the artifact space would close. Early in the morning, the square of the Radiant Saint Master Union was already filled with people. However, the center of the square was empty. That space was reserved for the participants. At this moment, all the people gathered in the square were eagerly staring at the Saint artifact at the top of the castle. Although the Radiant Saint Master Union's grand competition, held once every 50 years, was not as lively as the one held in Mercenary City, it still received a lot of attention. This was especially true for the people who made it to the top 10. This was because they were all geniuses who could become Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters. There were only 20 or so Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters in the entire Tian Yuan continent. The birth of every single Class 7 Radiant Saint Master was an extremely shocking matter on the Tian Yuan continent. Old Situ and the other 4 people who had come to the City of God to seek refuge were also relieved. They blended into the crowd, and there was no longer any trace of worry on their faces. They had obviously sensed the activation of the heaven-encompassing formation in the City of God, which made them extremely excited. Due to the cover of the heaven-encompassing formation and the fact that they had purposefully concealed their presences, the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect would struggle to find them. As a result, they had much less to worry about when searching for Jianshin. Yang Yutian seems to be only 24 years old. Not only has he become a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master and grasped 3 Radiant Saint techniques, but he's even tamed a beast of antiquity. Even I'm very curious about him. I want to see just what kind of person he is. Ma Tung mumbled to himself. Old Ghost Ma Tung muttered to himself. Along the way, the 5 of them had heard too many rumors about Yang Yuqian, so they couldn't help but want to see what kind of person Yang Yuqian was. And that beast of antiquity. It's extremely rare on the Tian Yuan continent. I definitely want to see it with my own eyes. Old Situ gently chuckled as a sliver of eagerness filled his heart. Time slowly passed, and it was noon very soon. At this moment, streaks of bright, white light suddenly descended from the sky. They directly landed in the empty space in the center of the square. With each streak of white light, a Radiant Saint Master would appear out of nowhere, causing the empty square to become rather congested. The white light constantly descended, and very soon, several hundred participants appeared on square. All of them were haggard and in horrible shape. Clearly, they had suffered quite a lot in the past few days in the artifact space. However, without any exception, all of them carried simple bags of various sizes completely made from beast hides on their shoulders. They contained the high-class monster cores they had collected in the artifact space. At this moment, a rainbow light appeared in the sky. 10 Radiant Saint Masters of various ages slowly descended from the sky as they were enveloped by a rainbow pillar of light. Their appearance immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. This was because the 10 people enveloped in 7-colored light had all obtained excellent results. They were the victors who had reached the top 10 in the artifact space. That's Yang Yuqian. He really does have a little beast on his shoulder. Is it the beast of antiquity? A person suddenly cried out in the crowd. Immediately, everyone's gazes gathered on the little beast on Jianshin's shoulder. Their eyes were filled with deep envy and jealousy. When the 5 of them saw the white tiger on Jianshin's shoulder, a gleam of light immediately flashed through their eyes. They murmured, "Why do I feel like this beast of antiquity is extremely similar to the young beast that the Tiger King described? Look closely at the beast's back. It really does seem to have a pair of wings." It really does have a pair of wings. It's just that the beast of antiquity has hidden it extremely well, so it's very difficult to discover. A sliver of surprise appeared in Ma Tung's eyes. After a moment of thought, he immediately said to Situ, "Situ, use the great divination technique again immediately and see if you can find Jianshin. I feel like this beast of antiquity is what the Tiger King wants." A gleam of light flashed through Situ's eyes when he heard that. He said, "The heaven-encompassing formation has been activated in the City of God, so my great divination technique will definitely be affected. I'll do my best." With that, Situ's old man immediately closed his eyes. He formed a strange seal in his hand and silently used the great divination technique to sense the presence of Jianshin's bloodline. After 3 seconds, Situ's old man suddenly opened his eyes. Immediately, 2 shocking gazes shot out from his eyes, disappearing in a flash. Chapter 782. What? What did you say? Yang Yutian is Jianshan? An old man behind old ghost Sidhu exclaimed in shock. His face was filled with disbelief. That's right, it's him. He's Jianshan. It can't be wrong because I used the blood of Jianshan's parents to cast the Great Prophecy technique. I can sense a dense presence of bloodline from Yang Yutian. So he must be Jianshan. Old man Sidhu was both excited and surprised. He was excited because they had finally found Jianshan after searching for so long. They were about to complete the Tiger King's mission and obtain the remaining 2 Class 7 monster cores. However, he was surprised because Jianshan, who was originally a fighter and had participated in the tournament of Mercenary City, had suddenly become a Radiant Saint Master. Moreover, he was an unprecedented Class 6, Radiant Saint Master with talent. Even old man Sidhu found this rather unbelievable. If it were not for the dense presence of bloodline from Jianshan, he would have never connected Yang Yutian to Jianshan. This was because Radiant Saint Masters and fighters could not exist at the same time on the Tianyuan continent. This had basically become an indisputable fact. Strange. Jianshan was clearly a fighter, so why has he become a Radiant Saint Master now? Another old man asked. He found this result very hard to believe. Old Ghost Sidhu's group of 5 were communicating using sound transmissions. Their words would not be heard by the people around them. Old man Ma Teng stared at Jianshan with mixed feelings. He felt extremely shocked by Jianshan's abilities as a fighter and a Radiant Saint Master. After a moment of silence, old man Ma Teng's lips moved slightly. He said through a communication technique, "Since we've found Jianshan, the beast on his shoulder must be the infant that the Tiger King wants." That's right, it's definitely that cub. It's exactly as the Tiger King described it. Old bastard Sidhu, old bastard Ma Teng. What are we waiting for with such a good opportunity in front of us? Let's go together and snatch the cub from Jianshan's shoulder and leave immediately, an old man said excitedly. He had been waiting for this day for far too long. Don't. Old man Sidhu shook his head without any hesitation. This is the city of God, and it's the headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Jianshan is someone the Union values greatly as well. If we touch him right now, we'll definitely be the ones to suffer. Not only will we not be able to take the infant, but we might even be dragged into the mess. That's right. There are as many experts in the city of God as there are clouds, especially the Tsar family. There are even Holy Emperor-level experts hiding there. We can't be careless, or we'll probably be doomed. As for the beast, we can only take it with our wits. Even if we want to take it by force, we can't do it here, Ma Teng said with a heavy voice. The city of God is hidden by the heaven-encompassing formation, and we've hidden our presence as well. The 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect won't be able to find us in a short amount of time. Let's just stay near the Union. I refuse to believe that Yang Yutian will stay there forever. Even if he doesn't come out, I'll think of a way to lure him out. Once he's far away from the Union, things will be much easier. I think that's a good idea. Let's do it. If it really doesn't work, we still have one last move. Jianshan is a fighter. The final top 10 victors slowly landed on the ground under the 7-colored light. The Radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings all looked at them with envy and jealousy. Quan Yukai was one of them as well. He was currently overjoyed, constantly thanking Jianshan. Out of the top 10 people, Quan Yukai had it the easiest. He had picked up so many of Jianshan's achievements. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union led a few elders out of the castle. They all smiled at the 10 people enveloped by the 7-colored light. Good, good, good. You're all the most outstanding Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters this year. I hope that a year from now, there'll be Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters among you. The president looked at Jianshan and said, Yang Yutian, you've done extremely well. Even I feel proud of you. However, I've misjudged the little beast on your shoulder. I never thought that it would actually be a beast of ancient times. It really does shock me. President, Yang Yutian has experienced many battles in the artifact space. He must be exhausted. You should let Yang Yutian go back and rest. The Grand Elder smiled from one side. He looked at Jianshan with mixed feelings. That's true. Yang Yutian, go back and rest first, the president chuckled. He was clearly extremely happy. "Yes, master." Jinshun clasped his hands before bidding farewell to Kara Livy and Quan Yukai. He directly made his way to the castle. "Hold on." Suddenly, a loud shout rang out from outside the arena. Over a dozen people of various ages strode towards Jinshun from outside the arena. Jinshun frowned slightly when he saw this. He was familiar with these people. They were all the ancestors of the 8 clans in the City of God. The president and grand elder frowned as well. A sliver of displeasure appeared in their eyes. The people of the 8 clans arrived before Jinshun and glared at him. One of them said with a deep voice, "Yang Yuqian, all of us from the 8 clans have died to your hands except for one person. You must give us an explanation for this matter." Jinshun's face sank. Even though he faced over a dozen saint rulers, there was no fear on his face at all. He sneered, "They were the ones who wanted to kill me first, so they ended up like this. They only have themselves to blame for this. They can't blame anyone else." When the ancestors of the 8 clans heard Jinshun's attitude and tone, their faces immediately sank. Their gazes toward Jinshun became much sharper as well. They could not forgive a mere junior for speaking to them like that. If it were not for the fact that the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union was present, they definitely would have taught Jinshun a lesson. A middle-aged man in red robes growled, "Yang Yuqian, we of the 8 clans are not unreasonable people. We know that the person who killed us was an ancient beast and not you, so we won't make things difficult for you. However, the culprit must be handed over to us to be executed. You need to give us an explanation." With that, the middle-aged man arrived beside Jinshun with a flash. He extended his hands toward the white tiger with lightning-like speed in an attempt to take the beast by surprise. Although this was no different from forceful robbery, the 8 clans had plenty of reasons to do so. A vicious light flashed through Jinshun's eyes. Just when he was about to move, a transparent barrier suddenly appeared, enveloping Jinshun. As soon as the middle-aged man's hand came in contact with the barrier, he was unable to advance any further. He was actually unable to break through the barrier around Jinshun with his strength. Roar! At the same time, the white tiger on Jinshun's shoulder suddenly stood up. Its bright, innocent eyes shone with a vicious light at that moment. The white tiger's tightly folded wings suddenly unfurled, and with a flash of white light, the white tiger had already passed through the barrier and arrived before the middle-aged man. It swung its sharp claws at the middle-aged man's face. The middle-aged man sneered and said disdainfully, "A mere Class 6 magical beast dares to act so recklessly in front of me? So what if you're an ancient beast? You're still as weak as an ant." With that, the surrounding space immediately froze. He tried to use his control over space to forcefully bind the white tiger in the air. As a saint ruler, he really did not take a Class 6B seriously. After all, the difference in strength between the two of them was just far too great. There was even a saying that all those below Saint Ruler were ants. However, what happened next shocked everyone. The white tiger was not affected by the frozen space at all. It arrived before the middle-aged man without slowing down at all. Under the middle-aged man's shocked gaze, it left behind 2 deep claw marks on his face with lightning speed. Afterward, it turned into a streak of white light and landed on Jinshun's shoulder calmly. The frozen space did not seem to exist to the white tiger at all. The entire place fell silent, including the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union and the saint rulers from the 8 clans of the City of God. Everyone stared at the deep claw marks on the middle-aged man's face blankly. Disbelief filled their faces. A Class 6 magical beast had actually injured a saint ruler, and the wound had been left on his face. This was basically a vicious slap to the saint ruler's face. It was a humiliation that he would never be able to wash away for the rest of his life. After being stunned for a while, the middle-aged man returned to his senses. Feeling the burning pain on his face, he immediately became furious. He was filled with rage. To think that he, a mighty saint ruler, had his face slashed by a Class 6 magical beast in front of so many people was a great humiliation. He even wanted to die. Why, you bastard. I'll definitely not let you live today." The middle-aged man had already lost his mind under the pressure of his rage and humiliation. He bellowed out and actually attacked the white tiger as hard as he could without any regard for the consequences. "How dare you!" Suddenly, a feeble, old voice rang out from the sky. With that, the space around the middle-aged man immediately froze. Even with his strength as a saint ruler, he was unable to resist the frozen space at all. He was firmly trapped, unable to move at all. Afterward, the frozen space suddenly shook. The red-robed man immediately vomited a mouthful of blood and was blown away. He was caught by the saint rulers of the 8 clans behind him. At this moment, the saint rulers of the 8 clans all revealed extremely ugly expressions. The Holy Emperor of the Radiant Saint Master Union had interfered. Unless the ancestor of the Tsar family stood up for them, it would be very difficult for them to gain anything. However, the ancestor of the Tsar family was extremely fearful of the president of the Union, so it was impossible for him to stand up for them. Chapter 783. The ancestors of the 8 great clans all had ashen faces. In the end, they all left with gloomy faces. The people of the Tsar clan did not appear at all. After seeing that no one from their clan had come out of the artifact space, they left without a word. Although quite a few people from the Tsar clan had died in the artifact space, they were still in the wrong. They had even brought in the power of the Holy Emperor, which was already a serious violation of the rules. Even if something happened to their clansmen in there, they could not find anything to say. They could only suffer in silence and admit that they were unlucky. However, after experiencing this matter, many people had personally witnessed the white tiger's strength and extraordinariness. It was able to injure a saint ruler as a class 6 magical beast. Even if the saint ruler had been careless and injured, the white tiger's reputation still rose to an extremely high level. It received the attention and envy of countless people. In the crowd, old Situ Gue's group of 5 stared at the white tiger on Jinshin's shoulder. A strange light flickered in their eyes. No wonder the Tiger King wanted to find this exotic beast. It really is very powerful. Old Man Ma tongue sighed softly. Old Man Situ Gue glanced at the white tiger one last time before turning around to leave. He said, "Let's go. There's no point in staying here anymore. Let's act according to our plan. As for Jinshin's identity as a fighter, we can't reveal it unless we have no other choice. None of us know how the Radiant Saint Master Union will treat Jinshin after they find out about this. If they still treat Jinshin as a member of the Union, then Jinshin can openly use the power of the Union to deal with us. That will be extremely disadvantageous to us. If they treat Jinshin as an enemy, then with the Union's strength, it will be impossible for Jinshin to escape. The exotic beast will also fall into the hands of the Union. This is definitely not something I want to see, so the best method now is to make a move after Jinshin leaves the Union." Jinshin returned to his castle to rest. He paid no attention to the matters outside. At this moment, he sat on his bed with his eyes closed. The senses of his soul had already enveloped the entire Radiant Saint Master Union. After a while, Jinshin slowly opened his eyes and murmured, "Something seems to have changed in the City of God. I can't sense the auras of those experts. Also, Yin Tian isn't in the castle. I wonder where he's hiding. Whatever. There's still a year before the Saint artifact is unsealed. Only then will I be able to absorb the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force and reach the 7th class. I'll just stay here quietly for the next year," Jinshin sighed. Within the Tsar family's simple and unadorned manor, in an underground secret room, Yun Tian was currently having a close conversation with an inner elder of the Tsar family. "Yun Tian, have you really decided to do this?" An inner elder of the Tsar family sat before Yun Tian as he stared at him with a smile. A determined light flashed through Yun Tian's eyes as he said, "As long as your Tsar family eliminates Yang Yuqian, once I become the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union in the future, I, Yun Tian, will immediately lead the Radiant Saint Master Union to submit to your Tsar family. However, if there are any objections during this period of time, I hope that your Tsar family can help me deal with them." Yin Tian, a wise man, submits to circumstances. You've done very well in this aspect. You're much better than your teacher. Don't worry, since you've sincerely submitted to my Tsar family, we definitely won't treat you unfairly. In the future, you'll still be in charge of the Radiant Saint Master Union. However, other than being the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, you also have a second identity, which is that you're a member of my Tsar family. I hope you can remember this. The inner elder of the Tsar family said with a smile. Fourth elder, don't worry. However, this Yang Yutian must be eliminated as soon as possible. Otherwise, once he breaks through to the 7th class, it'll be even more difficult to deal with him. Yin Tian said, Our Tsar family has our own plans for this matter. You don't need to worry about it. The 4th elder said. After leaving the Tsar family, Yin Tian did not return to the Radiant Saint Master Union. Instead, he stayed in an inn that was rather far away from the Union. After what he had done to Jianshan in the artifact space, he did not dare to return to the Union at all. He was afraid that Jianshan would retaliate and humiliate him. In a luxurious room in the inn, Yin Tian sat on the bed with a cold smile on his face. He thought to himself, Tsar family, although you're powerful, it won't be easy for you to control me. I'm only using you to get rid of Yang Yutian. Within the artifact space, the white-robed artifact spirit stood at the very top of a huge hall. He stared at the 6-pointed astral formation before him with an uneasy expression. The 6-pointed astral formation was an oath he had made with a powerful Radiant Saint Master a very, very long time ago. The ancient oath restricted his actions, allowing him to silently guard the Union for countless years. If it was before the competition, the artifact spirit would never have thought about the ancient oath no matter what. However, ever since he discovered the azulate sword spirits and the terrifyingly powerful corpses that had been slain by the azulate sword spirits in the endless space, his heart began to change. This was because this scene allowed him to see an even vaster world, as well as the principle that there would always be someone better than him. He was unwilling to continue guarding the Union silently. As a result, he became disloyal. He did not want to be left alone. He wanted to search for an even vaster world. The artifact spirit stood before the 6-pointed astral formation in silence for a very long time. The light in his eyes became more and more determined. He clenched his fists tightly and said with a deep voice, I will definitely destroy this ancient oath that has bound me for countless years. Only then can I regain my freedom. With that, the energy within the artifact space became extremely violent. It gathered in the hall at an unbelievable speed. In the blink of an eye, devastating ripples of energy gathered in the majestic hall. In the face of this terrifyingly vast energy, the entire hall was reduced to ashes and dissipated into the air, leaving behind a huge hexagram array floating in the air. The ground within a radius of 50 li had sunk down by 30 zhang. This alarmed all the creatures in the artifact space. Regardless of their strength, they all sensed the changes in the artifact space. A bare-chested, middle-aged man stood up from the ground on the top of a sword-shaped mountain. He stared into the distance and cried out, What's wrong with the artifact spirit? What is he trying to do? In an underground cavern, an old man who had been cultivating in his cultivation chamber slowly opened his eyes. His eyes shone brightly as he stared into the distance. He murmured curiously, Just what is this artifact spirit trying to do? Why has it suddenly mobilized such a tremendous amount of energy? Has it gone mad? Boom! Suddenly, an earth-shaking sound rang out from the distance. A devastating storm of energy wreaked havoc in the distance, causing the entire artifact space to shake violently as if the world was about to collapse. God damn it! Has the artifact spirit lost his mind? Does he want to destroy this space? A middle-aged man in tight robes cursed aloud in a forest. His face was stern. The ancient oath is too powerful. I can't break it with my power. Class 8 magical beasts, assist me. Once I break the ancient oath, I'll restore your freedom. At this moment, a great voice rang through every corner of the artifact space. All the Class 8 magical beasts in the artifact space became stunned at first when they heard the voice, but they immediately became overjoyed. Without any hesitation, They hurried to the center of the artifact space as quickly as they could. The Class 7 magical beasts all looked at them enviously. Very soon, over a dozen people of various ages and dressed in various clothes gathered behind the artifact spirit. They all stared at the huge, six-pointed astral formation before them in surprise. Lord Artifact Spirit, is what you said true? If we help you break this ancient oath, you'll restore our freedom, the bare-chested middle-aged man said in a deep voice. His voice was filled with unconcealable excitement. That's right. As long as you help me break the ancient oath, I'll immediately send you out of the artifact space and restore your freedom. The artifact spirit said seriously. All right, let's begin right now. Chapter 784. Over a dozen Class 8 magical beasts gathered together. If something like this happened on the Tian-Yuan continent, it would be enough to shake up the entire continent. This was because the Class 8 magical beasts were equivalent to over a dozen Holy Emperor Realm experts. Even with the entire continent in perspective, experts like that were extremely rare. The Class 8 magical beasts had been born in the artifact space, and they had also grown up there. They knew that there was an even vaster world within the artifact space long ago, and they had always hoped to leave the artifact space to see the vaster world. However, they were trapped in the artifact space. Even if they worked together, they could not break free, so they could only silently endure being trapped there for the rest of their lives like prisoners. Now that the artifact spirit had given them their freedom, no one could resist the temptation anymore. All the Class 8 magical beasts in the artifact space gathered from all directions. Even a few Class 8 magical beasts who were still in seclusion immediately emerged. Regaining their freedom and seeing the vaster world outside had always been their dream. No one wanted to give up on this rare opportunity. This ancient oath is very powerful. I can't shake it even after using the power of the entire space. All of you, prepare yourselves and use your most powerful abilities to attack the ancient oath with me, the artifact spirit said sternly. The artifact spirit said sternly before mobilizing all the power within the artifact space again. Immediately, a terrifying power that could devastate the world gathered in the surroundings once more. It was crazily compressed under the artifact spirit's control, condensing into a fist with a diameter of a meter very quickly. The destructive energy radiated from the fist, causing space to distort and the sky to collapse. Even the entire artifact space violently shook. The ground cracked, and mountains collapsed as if the end of the world had arrived. The punch seemed to be able to destroy the entire world. Behind the artifact spirit, the Class 8 magical beasts all became stern. They glanced at the artifact spirit in shock. They were all stunned by the power of the artifact spirit. Before the artifact spirit's punch, they could not even think about resisting because the power of the punch could easily annihilate them. Aye, is this the power of the Holy Emperor? All the Class 8 magical beasts looked at the artifact spirit in deep fear. What are you standing around for? Do it. The artifact spirit turned around and yelled at the Class 8 magical beasts. The Class 8 magical beasts trembled. Without any hesitation, they immediately began to gather all the power within their bodies into their hands. As the Class 8 magical beasts that were no weaker than the Holy Emperor struck out at the same time, a terrifying pressure immediately permeated the entire artifact space, causing countless magical beasts to tremble. The energy of the world and the radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings were thrown into chaos. The shaking of the sacred artifact space grew more and more intense. The space inside was violently twisting. The area where the dozen Class 8 magical beasts had become dark. Space had been annihilated, revealing a pitch-black void. Do it! The artifact spirit yelled out before striking out with the Class 8 magical beasts at the same time. Terrifying pulses of energy that had been brewing for a very long time surged out with devastating power. The huge fist condensed from the artifact spirit, and the various weapons condensed from the Class 8 magical beasts viciously struck the hexagram array. Boom! A deafening sound reverberated through the entire artifact space. The hexagram array suddenly erupted with dazzling light, resisting the attacks from the artifact's spirit and the others with all their might. A while later, the attacks launched by the artifact's spirit and the Class 8 magical beasts dissipated in the air due to the exhaustion of energy. However, the hexagram array was still intact. The combined attacks of the Class 8 magical beasts and the powerful artifact spirit did not shatter the hexagram array. The toughness and power of the hexagram array had reached a terrifying level. The power of this primordial oath is too strong. The artifact spirit's face turned somewhat ugly. Looking at the undamaged hexagram array, the expressions of the dozen Class 8 magical beasts became extremely solemn. The shock in their hearts had already reached a point of no return. The strength of the hexagram array was unbelievable to them. Come again. I refuse to believe that I can't break the ancient oath. If you want to regain your freedom, don't hold back anymore, the artifact spirit said through gritted teeth. His face was terrifyingly sunken. If he did not break the ancient oath, he would not be able to break the oath from back then and leave. The dozen or so rank 8 magical beasts looked at each other. Determination appeared in their eyes. Soon after, they let out a low roar, and all of them turned into magical beasts. They had been trapped here for thousands of years. To them, there was nothing more important than freedom. In order to obtain freedom and see the wider world outside, they had already decided to disdain everything and break this ancient oath, just to be able to return to their ancestral homeland, just to be able to see the outside world. There were quite a few beasts of antiquity among the Class 8 magical beasts. Among the dozen or so huge, 3 of them stood out the most. One of them was a divine gold dragon that was several hundred meters tall. He was covered in golden scales. The terrifying presence radiating from him had reached an earth-shattering level. He was the most powerful existence among the dozen magical beasts. He had reached the level of the Holy Emperor in the 9th heavenly layer. He was fully deserving of the title of the strongest existence in the artifact space. Only the artifact spirit could suppress him. The second one was a huge crocodile that was several thousand meters long. It was covered in black scales. Each scale had an extremely sharp spike. Countless spikes densely covered its body, making it seem like a hedgehog covered in spikes. The crocodile was a mutated king beast. Although it was not a beast of antiquity, its battle prowess was no weaker than a beast of antiquity. It just lacked the inherited memories of a beast of antiquity. The mutated crocodile god was extremely powerful as well. It had reached the level of the human Holy Emperor in the 8th heavenly layer. In the artifact space, it was second only to the divine gold dragon. The third one was a fiery bird that was covered in flames. It was called the fiery phoenix. It was also a beast of antiquity. The flames around its body seemed to have reached the pinnacle of fire. It could burn through space and everything. The terrifying heat made the Class 8 magical beasts not dare to approach it. They all stayed away. The fiery phoenix was extremely powerful as well. It was also at the level of the Holy Emperor in the 8th heavenly layer. It was on par with the mutated crocodile god in the artifact space. The dozen Class 8 magical beasts all transformed into their magical beasts and displayed their strongest state. Then, they did not hold back at all. They joined forces with the artifact spirit to unleash another devastating attack on the hexagram array. With a great boom, the hexagram array shone with dazzling light once again. It resisted desperately, but it still did not shatter. Even though it was only a formation, it was unbelievably tough. The artifact spirit stared at the hexagram array closely. A sliver of joy gradually appeared on her face. She said, "I can sense that the power of the ancient oath has weakened slightly. Let's continue to work hard. We'll definitely be able to break through the ancient oath." The Class 8 magical beasts joined forces with the artifact spirit again and constantly unleashed violent attacks on the hexagram array. Outside the artifact space, above the huge castle of the Radiant Saint Master Union, no one discovered that the Saint artifact hidden in a ball of white light was trembling violently. Every time the people inside launched a full-powered attack, the Saint artifact would tremble violently. The battle inside had greatly affected the saint artifact. At the same time, the ruler of the Gilligan clan who had hunted down Jianshan sat within a majestic hall in the depths of the Cross Mountains. The light in his eyes flickered as his face became uneasy. Clearly, he was making a decision. A month has already passed, yet there's still no news about the winged tiger. The 5 human saint rulers still possess the presence of life. It's impossible for them to not have completed the mission after spending so much time on it. Looks like they're probably human experts, murmured the tiger. His face immediately became rather sunken. He suddenly stood up and said, I can't let this drag on any longer. Since the human experts have already learned about the winged tiger, it's impossible for the 5 saint rulers to complete the mission with their strength. I need to send the news back to the beast god continent. With that, the Tiger King immediately pulled out a piece of jade from his space ring. Just when he was about to crush it, he suddenly thought of something and thought, since the human experts have already learned about the winged tiger, they'll definitely do something to stop me from sending a message back to the beast god continent. Looks like normal methods won't work. I need to use a secret technique. As soon as he finished speaking, the Tiger King's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in a hidden underground secret chamber. On the ground, in the middle of the secret chamber, there was a complicated array diagram drawn on it. The Tiger King arrived at the array diagram. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood onto the array diagram. Then, he activated the array diagram with a secret technique. Suddenly, the array diagram started to rotate rapidly. It emitted a hazy halo. Soon after, a tall and sturdy black silhouette appeared in the array diagram. However, his face couldn't be seen clearly. With the appearance of the black figure, the time in the secret room seemed to come to a standstill. Even the air had stopped flowing. A huge pressure vaguely appeared, filling the entire secret room. The moment the Tiger King saw this black figure, his expression was filled with respect. Immediately, he knelt down on both knees and bowed his head deeply to the ground. With a respectful tone, he said, Tiger King Anderson pays his respect to my king. Anderson, has the matter of the winged tiger been completed? A heavy voice rang out from the black figure. My king, it's my fault. Something has happened to the winged tiger, and the experts of the Tian Yuan continent have already learned about it. I'm unable to complete the mission with my abilities. Please punish me, Anderson said extremely politely. Chapter 785. Yes, sir. The Tiger King immediately let out a sigh of relief when he saw that the king had no intentions of punishing him. Has the person who's addicted to the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures made any strange movements? The black figure continued. King, the path lord of carnal desires has changed drastically in the past few years. According to the information I've received, he seems to have seen through most of the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures. Only anger, lust, and lust still haunt him. The Tiger King politely replied. Only the person who's addicted to the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures has some ability on the Tian Yuan continent. He first practiced the heart-calming mantra of the Pure Heart Pavilion before becoming addicted to the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures. He used the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures to enter the path of cultivation, stepping onto an unprecedented path of cultivation. In the end, he managed to break through to King. Afterwards, he attempted to break through the shackles of the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures again to become an existence that surpassed the Holy Emperor. I wonder if he'll be able to reach that level of cultivation once he breaks through the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures, the black figure murmured. He then smiled in a self-deprecating manner. There's no one on the Tian Yuan continent who understands the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation better than me. Breaking through to the level of the Holy Emperor and becoming an existence like the 4 supreme experts of ancient times is easier said than done. Once the path Lord sees through the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures again, his strength will only skyrocket at most. It'll be impossible for him to surpass the Holy Emperor. As he spoke, the black shadow gradually disappeared, and the array diagram that was constantly flickering also dimmed. Very far away from the Tianyuan continent was another continent. The continent was no smaller than the Tianyuan continent. The only difference was that almost 80% of the continent was covered in dense forests and vast mountain ranges. Only 20% was flat land. Countless creatures lived on the continent, but they were all magical beasts without any exceptions. Not a single human existed. This continent had been the home of the 100 races in ancient times. Later on, under the lead of the winged tiger, a group of magical beasts attacked the continent and chased the 100 races out. They named it the Beast God Continent. In the very center of the Beast God Continent, a majestic hall hovered 10,000 meters in the air. It shone brightly. The hall was extremely large, reaching 10,000 meters in length, width, and height. It seemed like a small city. The divine hall was known as the Beast God Hall. It possessed an irreplaceable status on the Beast God Continent because it had been forged from the essence of the earth by the winged tiger in ancient times. It was a sacred place in the hearts of all magical beasts on the continent, as well as where the experts of the continent cultivated. The Beast God Hall had a total of 99 floors. Each floor was 100 meters tall, and there were many halls within. The tunnels extended in all directions, making it seem extremely complicated. It seemed like a huge maze. There were a total of 98 people cultivating on the 99 floors of the Beast God Hall. They were the 98 most powerful people on the continent, and even the weakest was a saint ruler. They each occupied a floor, and the more powerful they were, the higher the floor they occupied. The ruler of the Beast God Continent lived on the 98th floor, and he was the greatest expert on the continent. The 99th floor was where the winged tiger lived in the past. No one could enter there. It was said that the 99th floor contained the legacy of the winged tiger. Only divine beasts with the bloodline of the winged tiger could enter there. At this moment, a black-robed, middle-aged man sat in the air in a majestic hall on the 96th floor of the Beast God Hall. Suddenly, a dignified voice rang out. "Lane Conley's The news of the winged tiger has been leaked. This king is in a critical moment of seclusion, so I cannot leave. Immediately gather the experts of the Beast God Hall and hurry to the Tianyuan continent to bring back the winged tiger." The middle-aged man slowly opened his eyes and said, "King, are we going to break the agreement between the Beast God and Emotunyon in ancient times? The winged tiger god should have existed on our Beast God Continent. We're only going to the Tianyuan continent to take away the divine beast of our magical beasts. If the Tianyuan continent cooperates, nothing will happen. If they don't, we can only break the agreement we made in ancient times." A deep and dignified voice rang out in the hall. The black-robed middle-aged man was silent for a while, and then he said, "All right, I'll bring them over right away." As soon as he finished speaking, the black-robed middle-aged man's figure vanished. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the entrance to the 97th floor of the Beast God Hall. He said, "Sangxiong, an old friend has come. Don't you welcome him?" A while later, the door slowly opened, and the black-robed man directly walked in. In the hall on the 97th floor, an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion sat cross-legged. At this moment, the old man's eyes were closed, and he was also floating in the air. A thick layer of golden light enveloped the old man's entire body. The black-robed man stopped 100 meters away from the old man. He looked at the old man calmly and said, "Sangxiong, I'm going to the Tianyuan continent. Why don't you come with me? The Tianyuan continent only has the path lord of carnal desires, the Holy Emperor. You alone are enough to deal with him. Why do you need me to do anything?" The old man's eyes remained closed as he nonchalantly replied. The black-robed man gently sighed and said, "Sangxiong, you should know the secret behind this matter. You need to choose a side for the future of your Punk clan. The winged tiger is the beast god of my Beast God Continent. The reason why my Beast God Continent has become so powerful today is all because of the Beast God. As a follower of the Beast God, I will never do anything disrespectful to the Beast God. My Punk clan will not participate in this matter," said the ruddy old man. "Sangxiong, have you really made up your mind?" A sliver of helplessness appeared in the black-robed man's eyes. Sanxiong slowly opened his eyes. He calmly stared at the black-robed man and said, "Lang Conleys, if you really do that, my Peng clan will immediately draw a clear line with the Tiger clan. It's still not too late for you to turn back." The black-robed man gently sighed before turning around and leaving. Sanxiong stared at the black-robed man's back and said, "Lang Conleys, don't forget that you're also a member of the Tiger clan. I think you know extremely well just what the existence of the winged tiger means to your clan. Don't betray your clan for a tiny benefit." The black-robed man's expression did not change at all. He directly left the 97th floor of the Beast God Hall. "Sanxiong, how would you know the secret of my tiger clan? The winged tiger is a member of my clan. No one understands the winged tiger better than us. Actually, I don't need the bloodline of the winged tiger to enter the 99th floor. I only need a droplet of essence blood from the winged tiger to enter the 99th floor. There is indeed a legacy left behind by the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, on the 99th floor, but you don't have to be the winged tiger to obtain the legacy. As long as you're a member of the Tiger clan, you can obtain a portion of the legacy based on your strength. I know that the king wants to possess the winged tiger, but he won't succeed because he's not a member of my clan. The moment he tries to possess the king will be when he's the weakest. At that time, it'll be time for me to take action. The final fruit will belong to me, Lang Conleys." No one knew that Lang Conleys was planning something else. As the strongest expert of the Tiger clan, he understood the winged tiger the best. He knew so much that even the king of the Beast God continent paled in comparison. After all, he and the winged tiger were of the same race. The people of the Beast God continent moved extremely quickly. After emerging from the Beast God Hall, Lang Conleys was followed by several dozen experts. They were all experts who cultivated in the Beast God Hall. He left the Beast God continent with the several dozen experts. Although the Beast God continent was extremely far away from the Tian Yuan continent, this distance was nothing to people at the level of the Holy Emperor. Lang Conleys used his strength as a Holy Emperor to rip open a distant space gate. He led the several dozen peak experts of the Beast God continent to the Tian Yuan continent. The clear sky above the Cross Mountains suddenly began to distort. A multicolored space gate suddenly appeared, and around 50 to 60 people of various ages and dressed in clothes of various colors emerged from it. With the arrival of these people, a supreme presence immediately radiated from them, enveloping a radius of several million kilometers. There was even an even more powerful presence that suppressed everyone, enveloping the entire Tian Yuan continent. It alarmed countless experts on the Tian Yuan continent. In a village called Longevity Valley on the outskirts of the mountain range, Uncle Xiao, who was farming in the mud, suddenly shuddered. His indifferent gaze sharpened at that moment. He stared at the depths of the Cross Mountains, where the Gilligan clan resided. He became extremely stern and murmured, "They've finally come. I never thought they would come so quickly." At the same time, Tian Jin suddenly opened his eyes as he cultivated in the floating divine hall in another region of Mercenary City. Immediately, two golden streaks of light shot out from his eyes, as if they could pierce through space and see what was happening outside. With a single movement, Tian Jin appeared outside the floating divine hall in a single moment. He loudly said, "The Beast God continent has invaded. All elders of Mercenary City, come with me to receive them immediately." In the city of God of the Holy Empire, in an underground palace, a middle-aged woman who was sitting cross-legged in the air suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were filled with shock as she stared into the distance. Her expression was extremely solemn. "This is the presence of Class 8 magical beasts. The Beast God continent has invaded our Tian Yuan continent, and there's even a Class 9 magical beast among them. It's comparable to the Holy Emperor." An old voice rang out from beside her. An old man had silently entered the woman's eyes. In the depths of a mountain, several tens of thousand kilometers away from the city of God, a middle-aged man stood in front of a small wooden hut. He stared at the sky in the distance and was extremely stern. He said with a deep voice, "They're all the presences of magical beasts, and there's a tremendous presence that even makes me feel fear. It should be a Class 9 magical beast. Has the beast god continent invaded?